all the others there, start putting that, and it's just,
It's a lot.
I'm a little slow, so keeping it all together is tough. Yeah.
You're only slow in some things, or I'm slow in most things. What, you say that again? You say that a different way.
Okay, I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. The board wants to provide ample opportunity for public comment on matters that come before. Your input is important. If you wish to address an item already on the agenda, we ask that you do so when that item comes up for discussion. If you have a comment on a matter not on the agenda, this is the time during our meeting for such comments. The board would like to remind everyone in attendance that to avoid violations of individual rights of privacy, a member of the public wishing to address the board during this time will not be allowed to make comments about any student, staff member, or member of the general public during this time. Does anyone wish to speak at this time? Very good. We will move into the items for discussion. We will begin with the elementary building project. I'm going to refer this to Shane. He's going to provide us with some other updates that don't reflect the action items that we'll get to in a few moments.
So start off permitting wise, one thing I wanted to discuss permitting wise, we did have worked with the city. We got our feedback, zoning passed line. I believe we're getting our permit relatively soon. We have provided kindergarten instruction, and that was the last thing they were looking for. But then I think we still need some additional permit review. We need some plan review. I think outside of what Townsend was providing us on the building side. So currently we've talked to the state. The state, I know, did call Townsend, and we're working through that on our end. I think we're going to send this to a third-party independent reviewer so we can get code ran through. And we'll make all this feel a lot better if we get that done. Now we're just going to figure out what that costs, and that would be offset with the budget that I put in based on state rates for the permit. I think it was, I don't have it in front of me.
It was 27,000 change to the city of Townsend, and we had around 48,000 in the budget. So the additional plan review will still be within that boundary, but that's just going to give everybody the ease of mind and the assurances that the plans have been fully reviewed by, ICC people, and that, there won't be any issues down the road.
Yeah, and I think that's for all of our, for your guys' protection as well as ours. We definitely want all the codes ran through by a third party to check on and get this permit. The other thing is builder's risk, and I brought this up maybe 2 meetings ago. Your carrier used to have builder's risk. It was automatic in your program, and as of June of this year, that was dropped. That's a cost that, knowing the program you were under, I did not budget anything because you have a $25 million policy in place automatically. With that, as soon as we get through tonight and figure out where we're going to land on value of the contract, that's something I'll have to get to your carrier. We'll have to get quotes, and we'll have to plug builder's risk. That'll be an additional cost. They'll go into the soft cost piece. Not sure what the market is doing with that side right now. I did talk to the agent today numerous times. I think we've got 6 carriers that can look at it. So that'll be going on as well. And that'll have to be balanced. We've done okay so far on our soft costs from that perspective. Depending on what the third-party reviewer comes on the permit side. Commissioning, I had 55 flood commissioning, that came in around 37 and some change, so we have a little bit of room there. And testing inspections, we're getting quotes out right now, trying to get that falls in line with. So we have a little bit of wiggle room there. And then the DNRC contingency, we think it's going to be I'm guessing about 13 to 15,000 to pull that tank out. You know, obviously we don't have a bid on that yet, but I'm guessing that's about what it'll take. So we have a little bit of room in there, and obviously whatever it is will be put back in here, and I'll break the budget out so you know where you're setting. Okay. That's currently where we're at, and obviously we get through tonight, and then we can start figuring our schedule out, get everybody in the contract. So.
Okay. Anybody have any questions regarding that? Okay. COVID-19 response plan. Mr. Wilkerson.
No changes with the response plan at this time. Right now, we are visiting different possibilities for looking at field trips, different things that requests that were out there to see which ones that we kind of want to look at that we might be able to still do in a safe manner. One thing we visited about it today was Ag Days, which is usually that last week of school, to see how we could pull that off in a safe manner. So other than that, no updates at this time.
I forgot to look at our numbers. Are we still relatively low? Good. Any questions? Okay.
I do.
You do. Yes, sir. Please state your name.
Dallas Deal. I would like to ask, what is the plan for a mask mandate in this fall in the coming school year?
I would say that's a good question.
I think what we're trying to do here, Dallas, is hopefully our biggest thing is to keep our staff as safe as possible, because adults are the ones that get affected by this a lot. And so right now, teachers are supposed to be next in line to get the vaccine. And hopefully anybody else after that point that works in the school. I would like to speculate, but I can't promise anything, that we are hoping that come this fall, we're hoping we're almost close to back to normal. So it is our goal. This mask mandate has been hard on all of us, but it is our goal to try to get to a point where it's not necessary. When that will be, I can't promise you anything, but I'm hoping sooner rather than later. As soon as we can get people vaccinated and we feel that everybody's safe. If everybody gets sick in our district, we're going to end up having to close the doors because we don't have anybody in here to take care of what we have to. So that's our biggest concern. Did I answer your question, sort of? Okay.
I think getting the teachers vaccinated is the big key point that we're shooting for.
Mr. Chairman, just one quick question as a follow-up. Mr. Wilkerson, since President Biden has cleared the way now for vaccination, have we got any kind of a wet finger in the air kind of estimate or whatever is what the inclination might be for our staff to take part in the vaccination effort?
We have not heard from our health department. We'll be doing some follow-up. We see many districts in the state of Montana right now that their health departments have them on the top of the list, and they've already set up clinics to vaccinate their staff. In our county, we haven't heard anything to this point. The vaccinations that we have received at this point with our teaching staff have come from the Broadwater Clinic, not from the county health department. And the clinic themselves put the teachers high on their list, but they only had 20 doses. So there were only 20 that were actually given. Okay. So I am hoping soon that we hear that they're coming our direction and that.
And I was just going to share, I was in a meeting today discussing that very thing. It was actually in K12 and higher ed. And I think Jefferson County, now don't quote me, but I think Jefferson County just received a large number of doses just very, very recently. So like a couple thousand doses just recently.
Oh, okay.
So it might be sooner rather than later. And I'm only speculating, and that's just what I heard.
Whether the water gets muddied is what I'm concerned with, because our governor's is on 1B plus and teachers are 1C. However, the president is saying teachers are next. So
No, it
We
was
will follow up
more
on that.
just, finding out what the temperament of the teaching staff is. And you have half said, yes, we'll get it, and half say no, or, we're very reluctant for whatever reason, or if, it seems like we've pretty much got across the board,
I'd say 80% plus probably said, yes, they are interested in it.
great.
Yes,
Great.
a much higher percentage than said. There were several that said, really want more information, but we did the survey 3 months
A
ago.
while ago.
I mean, it was a
That's what I
long
thought
time
we had
ago that
some
we did
data.
the survey to say, we need to formulate a list. So if you're interested, get on this. And so we still have that. But I would say close to 80%, maybe more.
Great, thank you.
And some of them said they want more information and now chosen to go with it, so.
Yeah,
I think a lot of it hinges too on just the opportunity to get vaccinated, like having that available, when we go to consider the masks and things like that. Everybody's got to choose what they want to do personally, but it's just that is the opportunity there for those who want to get vaccinated to be able to get that done, all the doses and then the time frame afterwards, so.
great. Thank you, appreciate that.
Okay, very good, thank you. Committee meeting reports.
I don't think we've had any other committee meetings other than we had a technology committee meeting today. I don't know if we need an update on that. We just
It
covered.
was on my principal's report. In case we had
Okay,
some
on the
stuff
principal's
to fill out.
report.
Yep.
There you have it.
Okay, we'll move into the consent agenda items, minutes and warrants.
I'll move to approve the minutes and warrants as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes and warrants as submitted. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Action items, approve the value engineering option. I guess these two things, the next two items are kind of coincide, but I'm gonna go ahead and start with Shane again. And then if any of the other team members have anything to add, we'll do that, and then we'll go into the board questions.
So everybody's aware we had our bid a week and a half ago. Our numbers did not come in where we wanted them. And delving through it, it was an escalation on materials and equipment. We did have good competitive bidding, so we were happy from that. We had multiple bids for each division, other than two divisions we don't have multiple bids on. So we know that the numbers were good, but we just got killed on the supply side. And we saw the quotes literally from a couple of months ago till bid day was tremendous increase. So with that, obviously to hit our budget number that we had accounted for, there's pretty much no way we can get all the way down, but we went through a BE process, and the charge with the team was to pick items that did not hurt our program or lessen the facility, unless you guys decide that we need to go further, which we can do, but then it's gonna actually start, that will be harder decisions to where we're actually gonna probably need some committee input from the standpoint we'll be taking program away to get down there, like, to the point of maybe not doing the band connector, that type of decision. So we did not go down that avenue at all. We tried to pick things that were very, things that you guys wouldn't notice, wouldn't make a difference visually or longevity wise from our perspective. Obviously, it's still some choices you guys have to make. The alternates as well, there's a few alternates. I know we were hoping to be able to have the ability to pick some of these alternates up. One of the decisions we're going to need tonight, there is 3 alternates here that need to be taken. We need to choose to do them relatively soon. And those alternates would be the abandoned Second Avenue, that plan that we had, the alternate plan that we had. Or, DAC is going to need to know which way we're going to go on that. So it's not like we can wait other one was replacing middle school lighting and the paging system for the high school. Paging system was never anticipated. I wanted to get a bid because Jim said you guys were struggling with your PA system. That was something that I didn't look at prior to this, because we weren't going to be doing anything in the high school other than the fire alarm, which I knew we were going to have to do. And you said you wanted some security, so I didn't delve into the paging system. Your paging system's it's on its last leg. So while we were bidding this, I had asked them to include that as a bid item. I recommend that you take that and we figure out how to fund it. As well as middle school lighting. We are going to be getting rebates. I've already worked with NCAT, their rebate for Northwest Energy. Just their initial pass, just on the lighting alone, we should be seeing a rebate of roughly $18,000. I circulated that email with Eric. This is one that I think we want to do because we are doing the ceilings. I would recommend that we take it. We are going to be getting some money back, but that's money back at the end. So we don't get it now. So I don't want to account for it now like we're going to get it, but we will get it. It's prescriptive rebates. There's also additional rebates we'll be getting because of we've got VFDs, free drives, and a lot of our equipment. We have some really efficient equipment that we'll get as they analyze this, so we'll be getting rebates back on that as well. We can't count on that money right now, but when we're done, they'll write us a check. So I recommend you take the lighting. It was something that we just we weren't going to do that much. It was more of a facelift. We didn't plan on replacing lighting. We asked them to do it when we looked at it further. So we're never really in. But those are the three that we need to make a decision on. The rest of these are items that we could pick up down the road if our contingency is holding well. We do have, hopefully you guys were able to review this. We are holding a 3.5% contingency, roughly $502,000. And then if you go above the line, we have multiple allowances. And these are for a few things that we're not sure what we're going to have to spend. One of the things that came up, obviously, through exploration was to find out that there's a building buried out here. We want to make sure that we had some money put aside for that. But those allowances are also like a contingency for those line items. Some of these will be spent, but whether it's the total amount or not, they're virtually like a contingency because we know we're going to have some items to do with here. If you go down, I think the next step would be if you go through the VE items. Hopefully everybody had a chance to review that. It was sent out last week. Jason and the group worked. He had a good write-up on each one of the items, try to keep it fairly succinct. I think from that perspective, we can answer any questions based on that. There is some of these here that are we absolutely want to take. There's no reason not to take them because if we had actually been able to catch a couple of these prior to the bid going out, we would have never had them in there anyways. So with that, I think we can open it up to questions. Jason, unless you had something to add.
No, I'll just echo everything that Shane said and also just add on to it. So we opened bids on Thursday. By Monday, there was an additional 12% increase on copper. And by Tuesday, there was an 18% increase in pipe. So really getting this figured out quickly and making the decision tonight is critical because the bidders aren't going to be able to hold their prices that they gave us relative to bid date much longer before we start seeing increases. So if we did say we're going to look for more money, we're going to have to go back into VE. We have to define what it is. Tim and DAC will have to get it out to subcontractors. We start losing weeks. So we're just going to be working against ourselves. We're going to be losing more than we're gaining, and we're getting into this cycle where the project's just going to start shrinking down. And like, Shane said, with the alternate, the price we got for 2nd Street was very good. Like we were expecting something probably about, 25 to 30% higher than we got. So we think there's a really good value there. I know that was something that we kind of worked towards. So just add that when you're making your decision, as well as the paging system. So if we don't do it as part of this project, the district's going to be doing it within, probably 2 to 3 years. And more of a cost than we get going through the project. So, like Shane said, the written responses, if you guys have any more questions or need us to elaborate, certainly able and willing to do that.
Yeah, and the key tonight is we have to make a decision. So even if we make a decision to cut, we still need to make a decision to award at this number and make a commitment that we will, work with you to cut it. But we've got to get some of these guys under contract so we're not caught with continual increases in material pricing.
Market right now is just, it's crazy. I mean, it's like daily, it's almost like the stock market at this point. Several factors at play there, and it's real. I mean, we've got several other big projects out to bid. One bids this week, and I'm kind of worried, just relative to what we saw between bid date and early the next week, with pricing.
Yeah, so it's not that we love having to force the decision so quick. Hopefully we've done enough due diligence here, but to be honest, of the suppliers, they don't care they could care less what they're gonna put a price increase whether you like it or not. Yeah. So.
Mm-hmm.
Tim, do you have anything to add before I open it to other questions?
No, I would just echo everything. I think we can probably hammer out some of the things we need to hammer out here once you open it up, probably deep.
I guess you do have your spreadsheet, right?
Yep, I got the spreadsheet so we can make some decisions and we can add, subtract. I guess I would just say that this spreadsheet is kind of the basis of what we plan for our amendment to our contract or for our guaranteed price for this project.
So unless anybody has, I guess, initial questions, my thought would be we'll just go down these VE items one at a time. If there's questions, discussion, we'll have it, and then we'll just decide accept or deny, and we'll just keep going down the list.
We might want to prioritize them too, once we see exactly what they are and have the explanation, so it might be kind of, once we get to the end, there might be some that have more value than others, so.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And just to add a little bit to that too, Mr. Chairman, to me, some of the value engineering items that are out there seems like we're just going to be the length of deferred maintenance is going to just get shortened up. Is that a kind of a correct assumption if we have
One or two of them.
on the asphalt, some of those things? I mean, there's going to have to be more repair done on those things
Certainly on
sooner.
the asphalt, the longevity, and, the reinforced concrete, although we feel that's a pretty safe one, like the 5-inch reinforced concrete outside of the commons area, as long as there isn't vehicle traffic on that, we feel pretty comfortable with that one, from a longevity standpoint, but you're definitely right, Todd.
Okay.
Relative to the thickness of the asphalt, if we go 3-inch versus the 4-inch, lifespan and, maintenance costs will,
Probably the biggest deferred
Cost
maintenance that we make though is probably on some of the controls at the middle school, that one. Controls can last 50 years, they can last 20 years, it's hard to expand them on that, but that's definitely could be a deferred maintenance. Also. Do we want to start then with the alternates, or should we start with the value engineering? Those are the all negatives, and that kind of makes it feel.
I guess it's up to what other people, I think we do the value engineering ones first.
Okay,
And then
let's
come
start
back
there.
to the alternates.
So
we're going to take off before we start putting on.
yes.
Precisely. Simply said.
Okay, so the first one, the signage change, all shapes to die bond, no standoff.
So this one basically, before we had graphics throughout the school, they were 1.5 inches thick. So we'd still have graphics, but they just won't have, they'll be the same graphics, and they'll have graphics, they just won't be proud of the wall so much. they'll be.
Right, basically,
And they're
they would
internal.
stick out from the wall.
They're not external
Right.
graphics. We're talking about all of the hallway markers, first grade, second grade, those.
You got it.
That was the only clarification I had, is that we were talking about those that were.
You think
internal
this is a
facility.
pretty good one, it doesn't change your look, anything like that,
So virtually, you look, you imagine, here's the graphic, this exact same thing will be there, other than it won't be here.
That is three-dimensional.
It's still three-dimensional, but it's an 1/8 meterial versus the 3/4 with the standoffs on the wall.
Which more than likely, some kid's gonna walk by and grab it off the wall. That's my thought.
Yeah, I mean, it was a premium material that's more durable, but by mounting it to the wall, it'll maintain its durability.
My recommendation would be to accept that one.
I'd buy that, yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Second, do not salvage any lockers from the elementary school.
Yeah, this was pretty much just something that we identified when we started. It was never really planned to replace those lockers, but some of them are pretty scratched. So the idea was to salvage good lockers out of the elementary school before we demoed it and then put those into place. So we were just kind of reusing those. But, as you can see, there's a $25,000 cost involved with that. So we're just trying to make the middle school as nice as we could with the money we have. And if we're kind of short on funds, kids will still have lockers. They're not in terrible condition, but they're not like in good condition.
Will the old ones in the middle school be repainted?
No. Repainting the lockers was cost prohibitive. That's why we're going to replace with the different ones. That was the first route we tried, Kevin, is to repaint. But that came in well above this number.
Is that something that can be done, like down the line on our own? Can we take those out,
Store them or something?
pre-tear down and store them and then have our staff?
Yeah,
I mean, is that,
certainly. Yep, certainly.
and is it, I guess we have to decide if that's cost effective for us to do that, but.
That's a possibility, right?
Yeah, and that's something that can be done at any point.
Yeah.
So any point before we demo the building.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk about if we keep them, it can be done at any point.
So
Might be amazed at what disappeared out there before.
So I understand there'll be lockers down the elementary area that'll come over here.
That's
And
what
the
was
middle
the
school.
plan.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
That was the plan around it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I guess
I
my
think
thought
we
would
should probably accept that.
accept that one.
That's fine.
We
Yeah.
can decide to do that on our own.
Yeah. I got a crowbar.
Okay.
We don't want to use a drill.
I'm just.
You just need a screw gun. We'll get you a screw gun. When we're not.
Hey, guys, that's not as much fun.
There might be some you can do with crowbar.
Take a crowbar, yeah. You're gonna give me the bad ones to take out with a crowbar, aren't you? I know it. Okay, all right, thank you.
Just to make sure we're clear on it, by accepting it, we're gonna let them take that dollar off.
Correct.
Okay,
That is true.
okay, number 3, main bid, change 4-inch asphalt to 3-inch asphalt. This is one of those things I think we're better off to leave it.
I agree.
Yeah, 7,500 isn't very much.
It's, yeah.
I would deny that.
Agreed, yeah.
Number 4, change topsoil spec to MPW spec.
That's a pretty easy one. The Montana Public Works spec worked just fine. We had a premium topsoil in there. That would probably grow grass a little faster, but the MPW spec, really we're just changing the topsoil to something a little more standard.
It'd be the only place in Broadwater County that had premium topsoil.
Yeah,
So I would recommend we accept that one.
Yes, yes, agreed.
Replace 5-inch reinforced flatwork to 4-inch with no reinforcement.
Yeah, so this is the one I alluded to when Todd asked his question. So outside of the commons area, we have that concrete slab, kind of a covered play area for the kids. We had to line that a little bit thicker with reinforcement, but like I said, if you don't anticipate any vehicle traffic on it, it should be just fine going with 4-inch.
The
And
only
we,
reason we have vehicle traffic there was to access something in the commons, or if they're gonna do, we have
Load
to do a
equipment.
roofing project or replace mechanical equipment or something on the roof.
well, all of that stuff should happen
should come
on the other side of the building. It would be more like it's for the steak fry, somebody backed up and, was unloading barbecues, but really, it's just, we've limited the access to that playground area to the swing gate. So maybe what we want to do is just make it a little bit narrower or something so you can't get a vehicle through it, but you can still get your tractor through it. I recommend that this one be taken to. I don't have much worry with it.
We all had a long discussion on this, and we looked at your tractor. As long as you're cleaning the snow with with that, and then not a big F-250 with a big blade on it.
Don't break my loader again.
Yeah.
Now,
That was the discussion. So, as long as we're not doing that, you're probably fine.
So,
That's fine.
Accept that one? Okay. Change playground curve, 6-inch by 12 with 3-inch rebar, so it was 18.
yeah, that's just shortening that curve up so it won't go down in the ground as far. It should be fine. I mean, the 18-inch is obviously premium, but we collectively feel that that's kind of an easy one to pick off too.
It's a landscape separation. It keeps the asphalt from slipping. 18-inch is pretty big. And I see 12 being just fine, especially since you're not going to have traffic and people driving around from there.
Okay, I agree.
That's fine. Thank you.
Kevin?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, remove the wall ball concrete.
Yeah, so this one was in the playground area. We had done a cast-in-place concrete wall for kids to play wall ball against. So it would take that away from the playground, but it is a pretty big cost, to play wall ball too. So it's kind of up to you relative to, playground.
I'm gonna defer that one. What are your thoughts? Do we have a lot of wall ball that goes on? I mean, is that something the kids do use? I assume they're using the side of the multi-purpose room now. Or...
They're using the brick wall right now, that's their wall. But it depends on the rest of the building, if they can, because they're gonna bounce walls against the rest of the building where
Could it be cinder block, for instance? I mean, can you do a cinder block wall and?
Yeah, we could. We wouldn't see the full savings there. I mean, we could do something out there. I think that the CME, Tim, you can chime in, would be relatively close in cost to that.
Yeah, there'll be a little bit savings, but they won't, but it'll be close to this.
So what size is the wall? I was curious.
12.
7 feet tall by about 12 feet long.
It's about 7 by 12.
So they're gonna end up playing against the building, is the building gonna be,
They're going to kind of offset. I guess they have to go right up against.
Yeah, because we've got that.
Yeah.
The only place they could really do that is underneath that commons area, but most of that is glass. If we did want to provide an area for wall ball, what we could do is we have the little area we defined for a climbing wall, like underneath the commons area on that sidewall. We could remove that part and just keep, because we had 3/4 inch plywood going onto that, we could just keep that area for wall ball.
I didn't know we had a climbing wall, so it's bigger than that.
Yeah, it was just that small outside area, like 12 feet wide, to kind of replace what's in the multi-purpose room or enhance that.
So it's under the canopy, correct?
So that way, if you wanted to keep an outside wall ball area, that would be an easy change, and we would, there'd be really no cost involved with that.
Honestly, I think that'd be better than the climbing wall.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so real quick explanation, just brief again. Where is this change
So
happening?
out of our commons,
Okay, yeah,
going onto the playground.
okay,
We have the overhead canopy.
right.
It would be, I'm gonna say, if you're looking into the commons, it would be the right-hand wall, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep. So there's a little stub wall that will come out to
There we
basically
go.
hold
Thank you.
the roof of the canopy.
Okay,
Eric?
and that's what you're talking
Yeah.
about, what you're replacing
Any
that.
idea, do we have a commitment to having a climbing wall from a grant or anything
No.
that came from a grant?
So this area right in here
So were they,
was defined as that.
The
climbing wall
original
area.
one, but-
Oh,
We just turned it into
okay.
wall ball.
Okay, where was the wall ball?
no, I don't think we have to have one. Will that one stay in there in the multipurpose room?
Yeah.
Are you
Yep.
taking one out in the multipurpose?
Yeah, we certainly can. Keep it.
Keep the
Yeah,
multipurpose.
I'd keep the one in the multipurpose room and then we're fine.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
I didn't know we had- I didn't know we had in here.
This is Second Street, okay, so the building.
Oh,
Okay,
that's,
okay.
sorry, I'm on existing. I need to go to the new. That's why we're not seeing it.
Okay.
So here's the new big playground equipment. So we retain all of that, 5 additional pieces, 4 square here, and then the wall ball wall is gonna go right here.
Are there any windows right in here? Look, 'cause this is where you're talking about the new.
Yeah,
Are there
not
windows?
on the face there is, but on the side there's not.
Okay, could they be damaged, the windows? You're saying this right here?
It is.
I would say there's
Similar to what you see in a gym.
a small amount of potential there to damage windows. I mean, they're playing against this wall and it's rubber balls,
3
so.
to 4 feet.
No, because
That's under the canopy.
that's under the canopy, right?
Yeah, this is under the canopy. Yeah. This
What
is
drawing are you on, Jason?
A2.18.
Ooh, there we go.
Okay,
So the area there he's talking about is, this is actually a canopy here. And these are 2 exterior doors coming in, and that, the climbing wall, Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, is on,
Yes, that wall right there, going north, so.
it's a small climbing wall, it's
you say
not,
this one, right?
Yep,
Okay,
you're right.
okay. Okay.
the climbing wall itself isn't super expensive, that is your concern.
No, we only had 1,500 in that, but we leave the plywood on there. That'll give the durable surface to play the wall ball, and we can just pull those pegs off. So we realize the full savings from taking the concrete wall out, and we don't see any additional costs relative to putting it there. I like that. And that's really the only playground item we looked at was that wall ball wall. So we've got the big playground with the enhancements, that second phase of it, plus 5 new pieces out there.
Plus 5 what?
New pieces,
Okay,
and the dog walls. So we've got,
plus the pieces we have to keep, correct?
yes,
Okay.
Well, we have the large piece to
yeah, a big piece plus what we have put on the
Right.
big piece that was given to you by the
Right.
grant.
Yeah, I guess in my mind, to me, at this point, that'd be one of those things I'd like to keep.
Sure.
In my mind.
Yeah, I think I agree with you.
It's not a huge.
Yeah, $6,600, I think, is that right? Yeah,
Yeah, you're not moving the needle on a $16 million.
yeah.
Okay, so we will deny that one.
Yes.
Yeah, the next one's kind of the big one.
Okay,
Okay, yes, the next one, the fiberglass duct liner, PVC storm drain, and welded hydraulics. I'll let Shane touch on this.
So these are items that, when the spec was fully out, if we'd have caught them, they wouldn't have been on this. So fully welded pipe versus the groove pipe. Groove pipe is absolutely standard, meets code, been used everywhere unless we're doing a hospital or a refinery. Very rarely do you ever use fully welded pipe. The closed cell, and this was another one why it's a very expensive duct liner versus the standard duct liner that always comes with just fiberglass insulation. That's where everywhere has that. unless you're doing something very specific, like,
And that was a huge amount, that was
Yeah.
about $80,000 worth of that 125, is just changing the duct liner to a standard fiberglass from that premium closed cell.
and then the last one was PVC storm drain. PVC is very standard. There is, they say that it is louder, but if you're not sleeping here and you're not, if it's raining outside, your building's already gonna be loud because it's raining. You hear a little water, not an issue. So this is one that probably should have never been passed anyways. So it should have been PVC, it's less expensive. And
With the
cooling
PVC,
code,
is the PVC just like regular Schedule 42?
Yeah.
I didn't know what
It's
that
just a
is.
normal green PVC that you see.
Yeah.
If you lifted up a panel, like anywhere that has grain in here, it's just gonna be PVC.
These are all pretty easy ones, and it adds up to a big chunk.
Yeah. So these were ones that were just no brainers. They wouldn't have been in there if we'd have caught them before they were hit.
Everybody's okay accepting that?
Yes, I am, thank you.
Move the controls for the middle school equipment.
So currently, you're being controlled by the existing control system that you have.
Could I just talk about this?
Yeah.
You know, when the controls is basically, you know, your thermostat on the wall, where, Jim has a computer in the boiler room where they're in the high school, that he can see the high school equipment and temperatures, and he can see the middle school. This would leave the middle school on that existing control system. And then we would only have new control for the new elementary school. And this is an easy one from the standpoint that you can deny it now, and then a year from now, when we've got the building up, we got it closed in, and we know where we're at contingency-wise, you can look at it again or any time in the future.
It doesn't change where it's currently at. Your system's working. Jim, we fully vetted it with Jim. Jim understands it. It's just an easy one to not do now. We did have new controls go into all those. It was fairly expensive. But it currently operates under the existing system you have, and your high school system isn't changing. Obviously, that system is not getting pulled out. You're gonna be running on the same system you've been running on.
No integration issues between the two?
No, we checked that out. The nice thing on the Tritium front end with the 3 or 4 bidders that we had, they all did it. I think it was all Tritium. You can literally add the entire campus if you wanted to it at some point, so no integration problem.
Eventually, you'll probably want to upgrade, but it doesn't have to happen now. And when you do upgrade, it would probably look at doing the high school and the middle school full control upgrade, just, to get everything on the same level.
So is that impacting our ability to control room temperature basically at all? Because that's one of our longest running issues in that section of the building. Correct?
In the middle school?
Yes.
So with that question, will there be any impact around?
It wouldn't change. It wouldn't be changing if you're,
If it's not good now, it will be good when
well,
we're done.
they should be able to be controlling it.
Right.
I mean, obviously, you should go in and change it. But you also could have a scenario where if you've only got a block of rooms on one thermostat, that could be an issue as well.
So what's your temperature issues? Is it hot?
From room to room, just unable to control. Just, drastic differences from room to room.
We even have the same issue in the high school, even in the newer buildings.
This number wouldn't fix that. This number only takes control of the main pieces of equipment, so like your boilers down there, your main pieces of equipment. That's kind of more of a localized thing that we definitely look at with that. This number would not fix that.
It's hard to speculate, but that sounds like more like an equipment issue than the control front end, but
And I just say that because in our early, that was one of the big issues with our buildings, both the entire K8 was the inability to, there's no, it is what it is, you know, from one end of it, literally from room to room can be at times a 15-degree difference or more.
And it's that way in the winter and it's that way in the fall when it's warm.
Yes, yeah.
Alright.
So,
So is that a different issue?
and I don't know if we're even talking about the same, that's what I don't
It sounds like a
understand.
different issue, but I think that's something during the project that, you know, we can work on between Ridge. We could help try to diagnose that, maybe identify that problem. And if we have additional contingency funds, we could allocate a little bit of money towards that.
Yeah, get the right guys on site.
Yeah.
Elkhorn's already,
Yeah.
Elkhorn commissioning would be, they're on board.
Yeah, Elkhorn would be perfect.
Kevin Smith is very good at that sort of thing. Reverse commissioning.
At the very least, we'll figure out what's going on there and define it so that everybody understands.
Yeah, and we already have them on board. They're our commission agent. We already have them on board.
All right, thanks.
Okay, so the question at hand is to the controls, accept or deny,
Except,
accept that one.
Kevin, what do you think?
You know, I don't know if it's that big a deal, and if we can have it later. Can we just hold off on that for a little bit? Maybe we can, might be a good time to get it done, though, I mean.
Yeah, throw out like
How old is the stuff that's in there? How old is the control of that?
vintage of your high school. It was put in with your high
Mid
school.
'80s, probably?
Well, 2000.
20 years ago.
About
Yeah,
20,000.
Yeah.
It was put in with the high school, oh, the controls in the high school.
The controls are tied into your high school, so when they put that control system in, they would have had to run the wires over to control that equipment, so.
It's new enough that that the newer generation
22.
is easier to upgrade and connect to the Tritium system at whatever point you do. And it's of the newer generation, so it's easier to upgrade.
I apologize, say it again, please.
It's of the newer generation of controls, so that it's easy to upgrade. When you have the really old control systems, the upgrade issues become a lot more technically complicated. And yours is newer, so it's easy to upgrade.
The one we currently have is easy to upgrade.
Yeah,
That's what you're
the high
saying, okay.
school and middle school.
High school and middle.
Okay, okay. I really, for myself, I defer to some of you guys with more expertise around that than I.
You can take it and we can definitely have time to talk about it, put it right back in if you would like. But at this point, if you want to, if we're trying to get down the hard numbers, that's when you can wait on. We take it now and we can put it back in.
Well, we're gonna have to,
Especially with the commissioning agent, we probably would want to have him weigh in too.
We did run that by him, he was involved in the process.
Yes.
And didn't see any issues relative to identifying that as a BE and felt that it was, you know, good number to see it savings on that.
Yeah, he was fully involved in that, but I think what I was trying to allude to was if there's further issues, we probably need him to help us look at that anyways and determine what that is.
And they did a site visit on Tuesday with the commissioning agent who works directly for you guys, our successful controls contractor and Jim. And they did identify a couple actuators that are not working, and that is most likely the source. And I don't want you to hold me to a number, but it's way less than the $40,000 for family controls.
Yeah.
And if you know, we could even look at that and give you a number here in the near term, and you can decide what to do with it.
I guess that would be my recommendation, is that we accept it now and keep it on the list as we get farther down if we want to bring it back in. We can do that.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I think we could just hold off on it. I would deny it for now and let Elkhorn take a look at it. Once they get a determination on what we need, if they recommend it, then take it.
so
I think we're saying different things here, Jason.
you want to keep it, you want to pull it off the minus. is.
You
That's
don't
the hard
want-
part.
You're
You
using
want,
double negatives.
you want us to go ahead and plan to change the control.
No, not at this time, not
Deny
until
it.
Elkhorn looks at it.
Okay.
So that would be a deny.
Right, that's right.
Can you find maintenance money for that? With the capital project budget?
Kind of a base, I don't know.
You go in building reserve or something like
Okay,
that.
so I'm still.
Yeah,
No, but
we got about
denying it,
154,000.
We aren't having to spend the money to do the control.
Okay, well, okay.
So you approve the takeaway, is
No, accepting it.
accept the takeaway.
So take the savings.
is
It
to
re-
take the savings.
Take the savings.
Take the
That's
savings,
what I
is that what
said.
I'm hearing?
That's what I said.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay,
Got it.
very accepting.
Okay.
FRP reselection to Marlin.
This one should be a lot easier. So, in the kitchen area, we had put in a product, FRP fiberglass reinforced plastic that had a wood grain look to it. It was a premium product, just make the kitchen look better. So there's a pretty good chunk of money if we just go to like a standard smooth white, see it in kitchens all the time. You know, relative, you're still gonna have all the cleanable surfaces, they're still gonna get all their equipment, everything's gonna still look beautiful in there. It's just that, you know, you won't have the wood look, and it was almost 40 grand. So,
You got that to that.
yeah.
That's why I think we accept that.
Pretty easy one, it'll, you know, it's gonna look great, it's gonna look clean.
Casework reductions.
So this one was reducing some of the casework in the flex areas. We have one side of the flex space, which is a bench that can be utilized, and the other side would be cabinets. So if you did take the cabinets out of those 4 flex space areas on each of the 2 floors, and then there was so we left in a lot of the casework above the lockers for storage, because that's something we defined with the teachers and the building committee. Tim's got the drawings pulled up to see exactly what we'd be taking out. So those are the flex space areas on the left side, the red identified, we'd be taking that out in each of the flex spaces. And then the upper locker stuff, so above the double tier lockers on the 2nd floor, and then above the lockers on the very south end. So we still left all the rest of that casework above the lockers for storage, because that's something that we need to have for the teachers. So it would just be taking some of that out, but still providing quite a bit of storage. And it's a pretty small number too, so relative to, you know, I maybe defer to Christine on this one.
Can I just say that, you know, like I toured a school this weekend, and one of the superintendent's comments, brand new school, was still yet to see a school that was satisfied with the storage they had. I just, for the money, I say get all the storage you can get.
My thought would be to deny this. As we went through that with the teachers, you know, we just heard time and time again, we need more storage, we need more.
Yes.
We never have enough.
So.
Deny that.
Deny that.
Yes.
Okay.
It does seem like nothing.
Change the planters to 2x12 redwood.
This one's pretty easy to explain. So 8x8 cedar, 3 tiers high, going to a 2x12 redwood planting bed for $17,000. Still get raised planters. They still look good. Tim had a great idea that we could work with the students possibly on putting those together. They would supply the materials. Really kind of an easy one for almost $20,000 savings.
Accept that one.
We have shop kids that can do that.
All right, do not relocate the greenhouse.
Yeah, this was a pretty big ticket item too. So the greenhouse would just stay in its current location, function in its current order. We wouldn't move it to the southwest corner of the field. We can do that, still do the additions, everything happened. The difference would be, we've identified that area kind of around the greenhouse as a middle school kind of playground area just for the middle schoolers, so the greenhouse would be in that area.
So are we talking, does the greenhouse, where's the cost in that? When I read that, the first word that I wrote down was really? Question mark, $33,000.
You gotta disassemble.
Is there utilities?
Yeah, disassemble the entire greenhouse, re-erect it. We've got a concrete slab that we've got to put in. That was about $12,000. And then gas line, electricity to it. All totals up pretty fast.
It's total up fast.
I was a part of when they built it originally, not through all, it was a nightmare.
Do you remember the discussion with the building committee? I remember discussing it with the building committee and when we decided to move it. What was the argument for moving it? Was there any compelling reason that it had to be moved?
Just because it's the space we've now allotted for the middle school, because right now they go on the other side in between the high school and the middle school, which now we're
That's gonna
building.
disappear.
We're building on it now.
That's the biggest issue is, do we have enough space somewhere else or around that for those kids?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah, you know, in my mind, and I'm thinking about the optics, the visuals, and then you've got the playground area, and you're looking at it from the front. And to me, it makes, you know, I know it's a big chunk of change, but I don't think you want your greenhouse sitting in the middle of your playground.
So this is,
Well, I could be wrong, but right now, I believe it sits on concrete footings. I don't think there's a whole concrete floor.
No, it's just a foot.
It's just a foot, right?
But
Okay, that's what,
when it
that was
got
what was in
moved,
my
did it go
brain.
onto a pad?
That's what was in my
We
brain.
have it going on to.
Yeah.
So that's where it's at now. And it's right out here. Okay. And what is that gonna interfere with if it's left there?
I don't know how it would hold up the middle school kids playing around it. That's my concern.
I'm sorry, Sherry?
Well done.
I said, I'm worried how it's going to hold up the middle school kids playing around it.
Yeah,
I mean, really, it's a greenhouse, it's not a,
yeah, how soon will it be trashed?
Because right now, I don't know where else we put them, because you're building with the middle school band on there. And they're out on the track area.
Yeah, and you know, if it gets trashed, then we'll have to move it anyway.
One of my big concerns is just through the whole process we've been through. I don't know that I think it's gonna be a hard sell to say the middle school's getting things that they thought they were getting when we started this. And I think that's a mistake
Yeah, that's a good point.
to,
We could, if you
Granted.
felt strongly about moving it, we could, take the slab out, which would reduce, you know, some cost there and just put it similar to how is now. You know, we could get maybe 12,000 out of it or something by doing that.
where exactly is it was it proposed to be moved to?
It's going to the corner of your scoreboard.
Next to the school.
In that back little shack, that little shed is either for tickets in that back corner.
Right along Pines.
So,
track.
on, okay, behind,
Yeah.
this street, okay, over here, okay.
Right where the double swing.
Where the gates are, putting the greenhouse right there. Okay, okay. So that shouldn't affect, we'd have to, I'm sorry, I'm thinking long jump pits and track.
And we talked about that.
Okay, okay. That's not a big, we can relocate it.
Changes.
Okay, okay.
Again, in my mind, I think, and thinking long-term, I think I would personally like to see it moved.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, that's just to me, that's, you know, thinking long-term, I'm thinking 10, 20 years down the road, and we're going to deal with it at some point anyway, right?
And you're gonna use that space for like middle school recess or something
Yeah.
like that?
Where they'll meet in the morning before they come in the building.
And lunch.
They're losing their area.
And I think Brad makes a good point that, you know, we've tried to include, you know, the middle school in as much of this as we can. You know, Tried to not make the project take things away from them, more so than improve things for them too.
So what is that, what are you saying?
Then we need to move it.
But you're saying we could it would take a chunk out of the cost if we put it on footings instead of on a slab?
$12,000, I mean, that's a third of the
Yeah, you're
project.
Yeah,
20,000 rather than 33 or.
Yeah, we could just do it per plan and per design, which would provide the best longevity to it, and just leave the slab in there for 12,000. I mean, if that's how you want to go.
Yeah, and again, here, Sherry, you're right, with middle schoolers, or Christina, with middle schoolers, right there, what's the lifespan? You know, of the building, regardless.
So we're gonna vote to deny it, set it on footings? Is that the consensus?
That seems reasonable to me,
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so that should be all of the VE items. And now we can go back to the,
What is the
We need
main
to
difference?
clarify on that. So 27, 40, we're gonna need to do gravel still, so not
Yeah.
just concrete.
I don't, I think your savings is probably gonna be around $9,000. I mean,
Yeah, because we have to go back in with.
I'm sorry, with the whole section. Oh, we can tell, we can tell.
Landscape that location.
So it was
Yeah, we've already got
358,
the landscaping.
and it's
in that
326, so about 30,000 savings.
we have to file our
20, so,
Or 390 or 326.
Yeah.
Well, I just wrote it down.
Yeah, we know that.
Say
Yeah.
24,000 and then
So
we'll.
the 358, about 360. But, so about 30,000 savings
You
out
need
of
to
that.
go the other way.
The other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're only gonna,
We save 9.
we're saving like, yeah, my God,
You can split 24, but
nobody was complaining.
Okay. So does that mean that from the original number, which is 358, then that is 47 savings? 47 less?
Yeah,
Did I get that right?
that sounds about right.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're 358, so now we're
311, now we're 311.
Okay, yeah, about 47, okay, yeah. Okay,
We didn't take the casework change, we didn't take the wall ball, and we did not take the asphalt.
well, there should have been a lot more change than that because of the one, what was it, 125 for the, it was 128. What was it?
That one was 120.
Yeah, there should be more
25,
change than that.
yeah.
The fiberglass one should be just.
That was 128 for the PVC stuff. 125, 654.
Right, but their proposal was taking all of them.
right. So we're
And
taking
now-
out 311, 058, or 038, sorry.
So basically, we threw 47 back into.
Oh,
What
gotcha,
they
gotcha,
took out.
okay, it's the,
Yeah,
okay,
what we
gotcha.
left in was for only 47,000, which
Okay.
is, those 3 items.
Total on the VE is actually the next one down.
Yeah.
Because of more.
Yeah. The 339, 168.
So we threw 70, or 47 back in.
Back into.
Back into, okay, okay. Okay,
So now currently we're sitting with no alternates at 16, 373, 214, 58. And our original number was 16, 051.
This would be your total, if you took all the B items, we just took all the alternates, which we haven't gone over yet, and the base.
And when we go over the alternates, just remember that these are bid alternate. So at any time in the project, we take these out, except for the 3 like Shane talked about, we can add these back in during any time in the project for that value, or very close to that, just dependent on material prices. So like if we take out the flooring replacement and the multi-purpose and the painting, we can add that back in down the road, once we get into phase 2, when we have contingency left over on the project, basically for that price.
Okay.
because that's bid already.
Those are all bid.
So we're locked in.
No, it could change, that's what he's saying, and if we don't accept it
But it's
now.
not gonna be there's nothing in there really that's gonna be drastic relative to material cost. I mean, flooring
Okay.
prices are pretty stable, painting is, yeah, that should be
Okay,
stable,
I see.
you know.
They're not locked, but you don't expect much change in the pricing around.
Right.
Okay.
There's not copper, there's not PVC steel.
Right.
Paint, and labor, and then flooring.
Okay,
Okay, so let's go through those items and accept or deny.
Okay.
Alternate number one, the flooring replacement of the multi-purpose room.
This would be one I just recommend we take out for now, don't accept the alternate, and then we see how we're doing, because this one was an addition to scope. After we started the project, it was like, well, it'd be nice if we replaced the flooring in the multi-purpose room and repaint it. But the original bond and the original scope, we have planned on doing.
what's the condition to me seems like it's in pretty good shape, is it? To the
It's in
experts.
fairly decent condition. There are a couple of big cracks that go across it, and it's VCT. I mean, it's a usable space right now. Obviously, going back in with the new flooring that has the game lines and everything, now that it's not gonna be a lunchroom / it would turn it more into a gym. So it'd be nice to do if we have the money down the road, but it functions fine right now.
And what type of floor is that?
It's a sports floor, so it's a rubberized sports floor that goes down in big sheets and it's heat welded together and then has all of the game lines on it. So, it would have volleyball lines, basketball lines, and, it's got some cushion to it as well.
And that's 50,000 for that size of space.
For that flooring in the space, yeah. Would be removing the VCT, repairing those big cracks, bridging them with epoxy and fiberglass, and then putting the new flooring down.
I would say to wait on
I think we
that.
should take it, we can wait on it, maybe we take it later
I,
in the project, we don't have to take it right now.
Right.
I'm definitely leaning towards taking it, because,
That would be an easy one to take down the road.
yeah.
and I don't disagree. I'd almost rather just see where our numbers end up with it.
You want to leave it in there till we get to the end?
I'd like to because again, what's the idea? We're looking at 10, 20, 30 years down the road, that's a lifespan. And this is the kind of project that lives that long.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, that's.
So that's, I would like,
100 years.
to me, it seems like, or whatever.
We just pass on it for now and go.
Well, I'd like to leave it there if I could, just because it's a long life thing.
Sure.
And then if we need to pull it, I guess we can. I mean, that's my mind, that's in my mind.
Yeah, if we leave that, we'll leave the painting in, because that just goes hand.
Yeah, I would think, and that's a relatively
Small
Gonna
one.
facelift it.
It'll be a noticeable change to the.
Yeah, and part of this, you got a brand new school and an old floor. Well,
True.
And I think there's a lot of function with it too,
Yeah.
as far as use. It's not something for looks, it's not something,
Right.
I think it'd be a very usable, it's a highly used space.
yeah. Okay. I mean, that's, to me, that's what I
Okay. And we'll accept alternate 2, the painting, correct?
Yeah.
Alternate number 3, second to 3%.
Yeah, so this is basically the scope we've reviewed and talked about. You would abandon Second Street, expand your parking lot, create the safer drop-off area for the students, basically reroute Second Street traffic coming around, close at both ends except for the parent pickup and drop-off.
And this is the one that Shane, you were saying actually came in a lot lower than you were.
Yeah, we were expecting somewhere in the 230, 250, and just all of us were thinking it's gonna be that amount of work.
Okay.
So we got good numbers on it, we were really happy to see it this fall. But it's not that you're not getting, you have the original, the one was approved by the committee, by you guys, and then you have the one that was approved as an additional piece. So we worked with the city to be able to close the street down. So it's the one that you've seen and approved as an alternate. So
Which
bases
is
in
in
there.
the one way.
Yeah.
with the, still we have the pull out. the Second
And it's
Street.
the actual,
So this is the
can you refresh my
original-
memory? It's the width of the parking lot, the Second Street parking lot.
Yeah.
It's
so-
from the street to
It
the,
comes
to the
this
alley.
way. We actually gain
Comes this
parking. We gain parking. There still is a pull out and then there's one lane through.
Okay.
And then it's, what you call it, you can't just drive right into it. Keep going straight through.
Right.
It stops, all the parking's right there. We got the additional parking right
It's not a
there.
through street.
So basically, the street disappears, just our drop-off lane.
Just the drop off lane
Safe.
and then out.
Thanks, yeah.
And the city's approved both. So-
And we pick up some parking spots.
Right.
Which was another key thing when we started this, that, we don't have enough parking. So that-
Right.
it was kind of an added bonus. With the safety of the kids and the drop-off being the primary, the additional parking was just a bonus.
And so I think it's a great thing to add, but let me ask Eric, with around the safety monies, there's money available that we can, for projects that'll improve safety. Is this one of those things that we can put some of that into?
Okay, which money are we talking about? to-
Well, how
to
does,
approve?
how does that work with with what the legislature's done?
There's some statutory,
Safe schools.
safe schools.
Safe schools,
Safe
but,
school routes.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they're giving any more safe routes to school
They
monies.
started a new program, but I think you have to put in for it.
Okay.
You have to apply for it.
Because I know that there's been a lot of stuff happening, of course, throughout the legislature and all those, and I just wasn't sure where we were at with that. And safety is a huge thing.
And
And
this does create more safe, especially the crosswalks. And that's where a lot of the safe school money went, was in the crosswalks.
it's in crosswalks.
It does
Cheap
make it a much
mitigation.
safer
Yeah, it is. It is.
environment.
Cheap mitigation, so I would like to accept that.
I think so too.
We have one question here.
Hi, my name is Tina, and I was just gonna say that with the crosswalks and with the new drop-off zone, we come from Billings, so there was a school, Canyon Creek in Billings, you might wanna research it, but they had a very efficient drop-off zone and it was incredibly safe. They had 2 people officiating it, both of them had walkie-talkies, so they were able to talk to each other. I've gone through the drop-off here, and not to be sarcastic, but I will be, I've literally seen parents bathe, make scrambled eggs, and dress their children in the drop-off line. Then my kids were like, Mommy, what's taking so long? Well, somebody had to get their teeth brushed, so I think that would be a great thing to think about in the future when you do have it, because it does sound amazing. But just to have somebody out there cracking the whip, getting those parents to let go for the day so that it doesn't drag on. And I think that that's mostly what causes people to be unsafe.
What school was that?
It
In
was
Billings?
Canyon Creek.
So it's
Thank
not
you.
gonna be a multi-purpose space anymore?
No, it's its own district.
Yeah, it is. It has its own district. And the superintendent is Brent, I can't remember his name. He's from Helena, actually. But it was amazing. I've never seen anything like it. It was just like a clock. It just ran. So it was
But a redesign of that drop-off area might alleviate some of the loitering, if you will. I mean,
What you have, what Chase here, is gonna alleviate it. You have a pull-in for parents, but you also have the ability to get around them, and it's down to one lane. That is gonna make a ton of difference.
Well, right now, we have parents drop them off all over the place, and they'll drop in the middle of the road and stop and do whatever they want in the middle of the road too. I mean, it's.
And in the drop-off, they actually let them out the driver's side door instead of having them get out the passenger side door, because there is room to get by, which is so nice. But you can't get by if somebody's got their door open and they're making scrambled eggs or something.
And everything from this drop off, the way that they designed it, it does drop off. The kids are getting out the right side. They're not, not going across the front vehicles.
But you guys also talked about making it a little bit wider right than it is now, than our drop off.
Yeah, so it's,
Then what this little pull in here is?
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, I thought you talked about making it a little bit wider.
Well, just the one-way aspect
It's
is
still-
going to be huge, because you're not going to be stopping traffic on this
Right,
way.
you won't have
Cars
two-way
turning
traffic,
into
you
different
won't have the
parking
three
lots.
lanes, you have a very orderly
It's a
in
zoo.
and out.
Still funnel though, you still funnel right at that.
Correct, yeah, I knew that, I was just talking about,
So-
yeah, but you're, like, the lanes
Then it
together are
opens
a little
up.
wider.
Yeah.
Because right now, I think with some of those bigger trucks and stuff we have, it is pretty tight.
Okay,
Where's the addition, no, okay, so probably a dumb question, the additional parking,
right in there.
right in there, that's the additional parking, okay.
And actually,
And-
all the way
and-
all
and-
across,
yeah.
Clear over here too?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, oh, okay, okay. Okay,
I think we netted 21 additional spaces in the lot.
okay.
All right, so we were accepting that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now there is the question of reducing it to 3-inch asphalt for that little savings. Is that still, did you?
That, so that's not figured in, so that would be a savings of 9,310 if you guys wanted to reduce that.
So the 160 is
4-inch.
4-inch.
Yeah.
Okay, and my thought would be to leave it.
Yeah, if you like the other, we leave this. too.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, alternate number 4. I think we heard the number on that, but I
Yeah.
think that one makes sense to accept that.
Oh, the lighting, right?
Yep, the lighting.
That would be great.
And that's the new LED, new LED light throughout.
Yeah, and you'll see maintenance and operation costs be reduced by going to the LED versus the fluorescent lighting that's in there now.
It just wasn't anticipated, we didn't anticipate replacing, we thought we were just gonna do a minor facelift in there when we started. I wish we would have just.
And of course,
It was an
increased-
issue at the time.
And of course, increased safety as well because of the lighting.
Correct.
Number 5, revised kitchen equipment selections.
So this is a deductive alternate. So this is basically 2 pieces of equipment in the kitchen. Instead of doing a Hobart mixer, which would last like 3 generations, changing the manufacturer to a Globe, which is basically made in the same factory, they just put the Globe name on it. So this will last 2 generations. And we saved $6,500 on that piece, and then there was one other piece that we just changed the manufacturer. It's still commercial grade equipment, good stuff, but we could save, $13,500 just by switching those 2 pieces out.
So what was the brand? I mean, are you switching, when you switch manufacturers like that? You talked about Hobart and Gold being in the same factory. Is it a similar situation with this other one, or?
Yeah, so that one was the mixer, and it was a Hobart mixer. I think it was actually a Globe mixer. So both of them pretty much same type deal.
Okay, so we will accept that. The dough splitter.
So the dough splitter was an ad, that was an item that Vicky had identified, it would be a nice to have, not a need to have. So basically this piece of equipment, they load the dough in, a ball of dough, 2 pounds, it divides it and then it rolls it. It's got 2 metal plates that kind of makes the round little ball.
Cool.
They're doing it by hand when they make cinnamon rolls, but it is, a pretty sizable dollar figure to do that. I don't think she would be disappointed if it wasn't in there just because we've kind of given her so many other pieces of equipment and functionality in the kitchen above and beyond what they currently have.
Don't know if we can do it without a dough splitter.
That's what we need to, the general rule is you gotta keep the cook happy.
Yes.
Well, she's plenty happy with the kitchen we've designed and how it's going to
Accept.
So accept we want to keep.
Except it's taking it away or
Deny.
deny?
Deny.
Okay.
We can take it later though if it becomes an issue.
Absolutely, that's unusual to take.
Yeah, we can always.
We get really.
You can't live, like I said, you can't live without a dough splitter.
Okay. Number 6, wall tile at the east wall of the kitchen, that's the one that.
Yeah, so this is a deductive alternate again. So in the plans, we've got stainless steel down that entire long wall with the equipment. This would be to take the stainless steel off and put ceramic tile on the wall. Still a very durable material, both of them look great, but we can save $6,600 by going to the tile versus the stainless.
Maintenance wise, how, or like maintenance and cleaning, I mean, for
That's what I was thinking.
Cleaning, you know, you have a little more cleaning, with the tile, obviously, but, you know, with the grout color we've chosen and whatnot, it's still a very cleanable product. So,
I see both.
Is the rest of the kitchen stainless?
it's FRP, the white, smooth FRP.
Okay.
It's just that wall that the equipment sits on, kind of. all the
Oh,
way.
so this isn't even, this is just where the equipment is
Yeah.
gonna be.
The backer.
Kind of like a backsplash or
Yeah.
back, okay.
Okay.
Because you can't put FRP there because of the hot grease and everything, and
I'm fine with the deduction.
So we'll accept the deduction.
Yes, I mean, that's.
I'd actually rather go stainless on
I'm worried about cleaning.
I'm good with that too.
yeah, and it's 6,600, so.
Yeah.
kind of split.
Okay, so we'll be,
Yeah.
Denied.
so we'll deny the deduction.
Yeah.
Thank you.
that.
So okay, so I don't know a lot about this. So the FRP, that's sort of like a wallboard, is that right?
Yep, so fiberglass reinforced plastic, it's a thin piece of plastic, it's got the joints, 4x8 sheets, you just wipe it down. It's very durable, like things running into it, so on.
And this is up against, and where this is, where the if we say with stainless, okay, that's up against or the ovens, was that up against?
Yeah, yep,
Okay,
the
okay.
stainless is where the ovens and the stove top and the,
All the hot stuff.
Code.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and stainless is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we denied that one.
Okay.
Number 7, the paging system in the high school. I think that one's an obvious accept based on what we.
I would recommend that you accept it. It sounds like you're on your last leg. This was a really good number. We got 3 different numbers on it. 2 really close, and 1 that was significantly higher.
And this system is the system that was put in when the high school was built
Correct.
20
Yeah,
years
it's my
ago.
understanding it's your original system.
So
But it was expanded on what's in the current elementary system, or at elementary school. So it's all tied together now. It's pretty much on its last
It's
leg.
it's end of
Yeah,
life.
we're taking all the elementary out and doing all new, but then we stopped and they would remain on the old. So this would just expand the new throughout the entire campus.
And right now it
So
crackles
it's
something
right next to the
terrible.
atomic sun.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
It's
just getting
not
parts,
working
like you
great.
have to go on eBay to get parts
Right.
for it right now, so.
You can't.
I
find
love
parts.
eBay.
That's the problem. You can't get parts for it. You're finding used parts,
Okay.
or people that have stashed them away, buying money.
That's fine.
Okay, that should be all of them.
Okay. And these things like CMAR overhead, all of those will be our deductions, but those are good numbers.
Yep, so that's all just the markups, so as he was taking things out, it'll automatically.
Changes those, yeah, okay,
Yeah, and those were already in the RFPs, correct,
okay.
when they submitted.
Those are
So
lots.
that's where we're at.
I mean, that's taking all the alternates that we just discussed and denied, and taking the value engineering items that we discussed and denied.
Okay. It's good. It's good, I mean,
Yeah, I think we're actually pretty fortunate.
yeah, yeah, I
I
know.
would like it to fit this in a month.
I'm with you 100%, Kevin. I got some jobs out right now, and I'm very.
Yeah.
very-
I think we did okay.
And we did, I think the smartest thing we did too was locking in our steel number.
Yeah,
I've got steel numbers that, are.
So
we
we,
saved 25% on a $1.4 million steel contract by locking in our steel early. We made that decision in November, and steel increased 25% between November and mid-date.
so about $250,000?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
saved by doing that.
Yeah. Okay. So, now, I agree, I think that number is as good as we could have hoped for with the situation.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, they caught all of us, obviously, by surprise. And the original numbers, I'm sure you remember way back when we put these together, was pre-pandemic even. And we still hoped that it was, we pushed hard to keep it down. I mean, everybody's worked really hard to do that, I promise you that.
Yeah.
And none of us wanted to see this.
Yeah. So all I have to do is figure out how to pay for it?
Another big sale.
So my math says we got 657,000 over the 16,051 we started.
And if we take the hail insurance portion, if we take the bond interest money, we're about, what'd you say the number? We're about 50,000 short.
One thing on the insurance money though, I think we need to think about.
Okay.
We can use that insurance money to do other things outside of the bond project.
Right.
So, we've had some people present us with some houses to buy, chunk of property. We can't use bond money on those types of items. So we have, the premium money and the interest money, just something to think about. If we decide to tack it specifically to the insurance money, that goes away. And
Yeah, and it's not replaceable, yeah,
Not
right.
replaceable.
Right. Kevin, what do you think then?
Can we carry that in reserve? Can we carry that insurance money in reserve? Do we exceed, because we carry what, 10%? Does that exceed our 10%? Or how would we carry that over?
That,
Just as it is?
as is,
It doesn't have to go in reserve or anything?
no,
Because it's not part of the general budget.
no, it's
Not part of the general fund.
it's sitting there all by its lonesome and it's, wide
Mr.
latitude
Swallow
is how you
spends
use
it.
it.
Yeah, so just to comment on that, just remember the other portion of that, because you have 1.3, some change. The other portion of that, we still have work that we need to get done with that. So if you do move it somewhere, make sure you don't move that other stuff, because we still have to go after the recoverable depreciation in high school. So I just make sure you guys.
Right, and I identified that to these guys earlier, splitting out that 547 from the 1.3.
Yeah, and then, so the high school still has work to do. And in fact, I think it was two meetings ago, I do have a proposal from Jason to do the design on the roof. So I'll bring that. I didn't bring it this time because I wanted to get through this, but then you guys can get that approved and we can start moving forward with that and get that in. And I've talked with your insurance agent as well about that. They know that it's done.
Shane, quick question. So in those items that we've marked as allowances, there's about, call it $220,000 worth aggregate of allowance. Is there, for demo of the silo, shoring the stairs, all these additional costs, is there some possibility that we might see some return on the credit side?
It's being held as if there is return, we get it. But I also completely agree with the team. I think we need to have it. Once we identify the issue, we need to put some number there.
Exactly, right. So we may actually end up better than we are.
Yeah, so if we're able to get the silo done and if somebody wants to come and buy it, all of a sudden, no longer we're dealing with the silo, that money would still just be right in our contingency.
Great.
And there is a lot of contingency here, and not a lot for the size of the project. This is contingency kind of on top of contingency. Somebody comes, takes that silo, that's another 13,000 contingency we have in the project. We start digging out here and we only dig out $10,000 worth of an old school. Okay, we've got $60,000 into our contingency.
Okay. So
those numbers aren't gone. They'll be, any of those numbers at once.
They can go the other direction too.
that's what I'm saying.
That's what they can go the other direction too, which is where the $502,000 comes in. Is okay, we missed it by $50,000 okay, 50,000 is coming out of that budget.
So these are your best guess at this time?
Yeah.
This is a prudent amount. I mean, typically with this size of project and the remodel portion, I would recommend 5%, and including allowances and the 3.5% contingency, that's where we're at. So,
And that's where us as a team came and said, okay, we're this is as low as we would even remotely go. You know, and with that, it's still, we could use it, but when we get halfway through, if there's still money there, it's just your money, you will be approving what to spend it on. And that's where you can go back and buy things out, if there's money left.
So Jason, what I'm hearing you say is leave the hail money alone and go ahead and just take the balance, some 657 out of the premium money. That's what I hear you saying.
That would be my recommendation.
And your interest, make sure you bring up the interest too, because the interest has you have the same laws that surround the interest as you do the bond dollars. The interest is looked at as exactly.
It has to be used for, so you could take all the interest, and then it ends up being, well, right around $50,000.
At the moment.
At the moment.
It's still increasing.
So with long-term interest rates starting to climb, that's gonna start changing fairly quickly.
So then you're looking at about 616. Roughly.
But our VE savings and with the alternates, we've almost netted out. I mean, we were at 16,712 grand total before the alternates and before VE, and we're at 16,708. So we basically offset in savings those things. Savings from the VE and the one I've actually kind of funded those alternates.
And funded the alternate.
And making the choices you have. So far, we haven't had to cut a class.
We haven't had to make.
We haven't had to cut a
Program.
piece that you guys were specifically needing.
If it's a matter of 50K, we pull the alternate out for the flooring and the multi-purpose, and then utilize remaining contingency towards the end of funding. So, if that's the push right now, make that adjustment if we need.
And I don't know, in my mind, with the dollar figures we're looking at anyway, the 50,000.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Just an option.
Yeah, right.
I'd like to see all the alternates and none of the VE items, but.
Well, and for the advantages, as even Brad outlined, the advantages of that flooring, for instance, at $50,000, I think that, or Christina, that's probably well worth it, for what we do for our mission, for students.
Well, and it would make a huge difference in that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously, hard decisions to make, budgets were set. And it's tough decisions, for sure.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, we have a lot of money already spent on testing and other things that have been done to this point. We were discussing it before the meeting. Do we have a figure on what that is? Plus, we also have, is there anything else that we need to be aware of besides?
You're referring to the soft cost?
No. Well, yeah, sure.
Next one, you're
Well, I'm also talking about the contracts that were done this fall. What were all the costs of those? Because I was looking at what's been spent so far. And what is the total figure of that?
Pam has those because I don't review your POs. I have she pays. We have bid costs that were presented to you guys. So whatever their $35,000 for the commissioning, we've seen some dollars go out on that. I don't track that, Pam does that, because I don't make those charge that out. But I have $35,000 held in my budget for commissioning. But I have a $55,000 budget, so there's the offset.
Okay. So what is the total cost of the contracts we've had? We have Pioneer out here doing the geotech work and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would have to get all the POs from Pam.
Because that's all part, that all comes off of that bond amount, right?
Yeah, so anything from the soft cost wise, anything that we've awarded to this point or put out to this point, has been under all of our budgets. And so until we get to that point that we go, okay, now I've got to put builder's risk on here, that'll be on offsets here. Figuring out what that is. Everything so far is coming under 27,000 for the permitting. We have 48, but we also don't know where we're sitting at permitting wise. So from that perspective, I have no issues where we're at soft cost wise. I will bring it up if I think there is. One issue we're gonna have to deal with is the.
I would just like to know where we're at on all of those.
And I
As far as, you know, when we look at, the contract amount, soft costs, these other contracts.
Yeah, that'll be tracked different than the projects are tracked.
Well, yeah,
If they bill,
I understand.
if they bill against that, Kevin, it's gonna go to Pam, Pam's gonna pay.
But to us, it all comes out of the same pot of money.
Yeah. It does come out of the same pot of money, but I don't track your, so out of that, for commissioning, I think $2,000 has been, I think
2,400.
2,400, okay, 2,400. Off of the 37,000, I got the 37,000, I have the 2,400.
Right.
That's not something.
But how much, okay, but you have 37 committed to that?
Yep.
Okay.
37 off of,
You already have a Pioneer contract, we, what was that? That was,
10,286.
okay.
Yeah.
So was that paid out completely, do you know?
That should be paid out completely.
it's paid off.
That's done.
And again, you're gonna add a few things here, like I just said, we're gonna be adding builder's risk. Builder's risk is gonna come into this, whatever the quote's called. That was never accounted for in here, but I think we have enough room for the savings from, the commissioning, and we save quite a bit on the commissioning side. And whatever that offset is, at some point, we have to make that.
Yeah. I guess what I'm looking for is kind of an idea of where we're at in totality here in on the whole thing.
So question from, on Pam's book, she has all those POs in there, correct?
Yeah, and I've just gathered, you know, she puts them in our board packet, and I've kept track of them from the very beginning. And so I think we just need to go ask Pam to do that for each one of us.
I'll have the high level, I'll have the major purchase order number from the commissioning agent. I don't track your, as they send in bills to Pam and Pam pays against that.
So Kevin, are you just wondering like overall relative to?
Yeah, just the
we've got
entire, just the
budgeted?
whole package right now.
Yeah, so right now, we're gonna be under what we've got
We are
totally
significant.
budgeted for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when those contracts are issued, like for commissioning, you encumber the full 37,000. So you know that money's committed to that, so it's encumbered.
Right.
So you're not gonna spend it again.
Right.
Even though those bills will trickle in over the next 18 months.
I think Kevin was just wondering on if, like, in totality, soft costs, how we were sitting.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be under what's currently budgeted.
We
How
are.
much are we under? How much, where are we at? I mean, that's what I
We could
want to
do a
know.
reconciliation.
I can reconcile it pretty quickly. The only thing I don't want to do is until I see.
The,
Yeah, I've got,
by next week, we should know, because we'll know what the plan review fee is and the builder's risk, and those are kind of the two variables.
Yeah, but we have placeholders in there now for those though, right?
we do.
Okay.
Well, we don't have them for builder's risk. So that's gonna be a significant one. But hopefully the offsets. I have placeholders for everything else that I know will be
But
coming.
that's also not a huge one, we're only thinking around 14. Or was it
For the builder's risk?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it'll be like 30.
30?
That'll be an annual cost?
No, it was
The one time.
One time.
It'll be 30 to 40,000 unless, after talking to your insurance agent today, they've been struggling getting numbers and the market's kind of going all over the place. So take that for what it is.
Okay, can I ask, and again, forgive my naivety, with the soft cost that Kevin is speaking to, what is the total, ballpark, what's the total amount that's been held?
$2,786,261.
And that is in addition to this number?
Yeah, it's in addition to that number. That's what makes up your 18,837.
Right.
That you guys have already,
Okay.
this is.
That's what we sold the bonds for.
Right,
Okay.
right. And so what you're saying at this point, and what'd you say, it was 2.7? Is that what you said?
2,786,026.
Okay, 2.786, okay. All right, so, and we're significantly under that.
Yes.
As of today.
As
As of
correct, correct.
As of
as
today,
of
because
today.
there's some of these numbers haven't been plugged, right?
Correct.
We don't have our we don't have our testing.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got a number for testing, we haven't got bids on that.
Right, but is that plugged into the 2.768 million?
I'm holding a number for it, we just don't have them yet.
Okay,
That's
Same thing with, this permit, I've got a permit held for 48,000 because we thought it was going through the state.
okay,
We paid 27.
Okay.
We think there's something more that needs to happen.
And that's what I think was gonna be 14. That's what I was.
Okay.
So if that's 14 off of 27, well, then we'll get close.
but off that 2.786, we are under that at this point.
Yes.
About, in a percentage wise, a guess, a best guess,
Well,
not holding anybody to
I'm not gonna
anything.
say under it from the standpoint of we haven't bid them out, we haven't
Yeah,
We haven't
done
spent,
them.
Right, right,
So
They're
like
allocated.
the allowances of, so testing,
yeah,
you know, is an allowance at this point based off of, you know, Shane's experience, but if we come in under that testing number, you know. So until we pay it, just like until we dig up the old school, we don't really know what that exact number is.
Yeah, until we have somebody that actually gives us a number, like third party review,
right,
until the builder's risk comes in and I can see what that is.
Mhm.
I know what our commissioning is, 'cause we already approved that.
right.
So, yeah, I'll work my way through that as we get those numbers in. Is there potential? Yeah, if we've already got a $40,000 hole because of the builder's risk, hopefully I've got enough offsets here to cover that.
But you feel pretty confident in that number and for the most part, between savings and potential additional expense.
For the most part, yes. I mean, I'm like, we got a $40,000 hit right now.
Yeah.
We need some more. I don't know.
And I fully understand, you never know what you're gonna, see with some of these, I get that.
We've done well on our testing, our testing, geotech, we've done well on our commissioning agent, they came in well under. The contract with A&E was right on the money.
A big portion of this too is FF&E, right, Shane?
Oh, yeah, and that's a completely different design. That you're gonna have another design process that they're already under contract for.
For all the fixtures, furniture.
Yeah, that's $385,000 for your FF&E components.
Okay,
That's a whole nother design process.
but that's part of this number.
yeah.
Okay.
Which, you know, I'll re-engage the building committee. We, you know, obviously, we don't want to buy furniture now, but we're gonna need furniture later, so as soon as we get this part of the project rolling, I'll re-engage the building committee, and then we'll start working on how the classrooms are gonna look, how they're gonna lay out furniture, the, you know, tables, the chairs, the teachers' tables, lunchroom tables, all of that kind of stuff. Anything that's not like bolted to the wall or hooked up, you know, to hard pallet.
Okay, all right, well, that answers my questions, thank you very much.
You got it.
Any further questions? Okay, so the way we have it listed out, the action items, basically, we need a motion to first approve the proposed value engineering items, and then we'll do an approval for the final construction plan.
We need to list them specifically or just as presented?
I think we can just do as presented.
I'll move to approve the value engineered items as presented, as discussed.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded to approve the proposed value engineering options for the elementary school building project as presented and documented. Is there any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Okay, second item. Approve the final construction budget, which would now be that 16,708.
57.
Do we need to do motions? Or is that?
We would call that value engineering as well, if you're adding stuff back in the project. Unless you want to make a specific motion on the other side. It's up to you guys, if you want to make a specific motion to accept alternates and they said.
But it would be included in the final construction.
It
project
is, it's
as we
included in the
have,
final construction.
as we have it listed.
Yeah, so I'd go ahead, and as I understand, so correct me if I'm wrong in this motion, but I move to approve the proposed final budget for the elementary school building project as presented and determined.
Seconded.
Does that cover
Yeah,
everything?
because this will actually become an exhibit in there. This will be the GMP. That document right there will be the GMP part of the document.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the proposed final budget for the elementary school building project as presented and detailed. Is there any further discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen.
You bet.
Thank you.
We'll take a brief pause here for a minute. Anybody that doesn't want to continue on our journey.
Thank
Take a break for it.
continue, as a matter of clarification, for the record, in regard to the final construction budget, the board has determined that the bond premium and interest will be utilized to fund those additional costs. Okay, moving on. Approve extension requests annual leave. Mr. Wilkerson, you get to talk again.
You should have a few letters in there. Basically, if we're unable, people that can get excess leave, if we're unable to use that leave by the end of March, we can ask for an extension through the, I believe, fiscal year. And so we do have 4 letters, including one from myself, to ask that we can have a little extension to try to use those days up before the end of the fiscal year. So I would ask that the board approve the excess vacation leave or extension for Wanda Moldenauer, Pam Watson, Jim Riddle, and Eric Wilkerson. I don't know if Pam really falls into that anymore.
Yeah.
Is she
But-
compensated for extra leave days?
She will. In fact, when we accept her resignation, we're going to change a little bit of wording in there to have her last day be the 18th, I believe, which will allow her to use her vacation.
Right.
So let's just pull her name out.
Yeah, I would just,
So, Mr. Chairman, then I move that we approve the extension request for Wanda Moldenhauer, Jim Redl, and Eric Wilkerson.
And so I'll second that. But,
It's been moved and seconded to approve the extension request. Extension request for annual leave for Wanda Moldenauer, Jim Riddle, and Eric Wilkerson. Is there any discussion?
yeah. So regarding Pam's, as you were just discussing, okay, so the resignation will be on the 18th, right?
yes.
Does there need to be any extension request for Pam for vacation during that time, up until that point?
No, because right now, March 31st is the deadline for that. So it would have
March
to-
31st
It
is
would
the
have to
deadline.
be somebody.
And these
beyond
leaves
March.
Beyond
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you for the clarification.
Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Approve the calendar for the 2021-2022 school year.
All right, you have in your packet the proposed calendar for 21-22 school year. It's not much different than last year's. We just got everything shifted like a day just because of the way the calendar came up. But first day of school for students would be the 25th, with the PIR days being 23rd and 24th. I have all the tournaments in there. We did add a vacation day again in March. Usually when that's when state basketball would be. So if we make state, we have that Friday off. And we did try to do 3-day weekends at least once a month, or at least shooting for it. So graduation would be on the 22nd. Last day of school would be the 27th. So before Memorial Day. So I would ask that you approve this calendar.
Okay, I move to approve the 2021, 2022 school calendar as presented.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the 2021-2022 school calendar as presented. Is there any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Resolution of intent to impose an increase in levy.
Okay, so this is the time that we must basically vote to increase or keep the levies the same. You know, we have to do that each year. So just looking at these, you'll see the first column is the levies this year. The next column is projections for next year. Of course, the general base and the over base are already set by our budget. Transportation, you'll see an increase there. That's due to the contracts that we have with our contractors, our transportation contractors. Bus depreciation will be the same again this next year because of the fleet that we have. The tuition fund, that went up, and the reason is that last year we had a bunch of carryover from the year before, and so we use that carryover instead of taxing or, running the levy. And so this kind of brings it back to where it was previously, approximately, probably a little more. And if you recall, the tuition fund is the fund we use to help pay for paraprofessionals that work with students on a one-on-one basis. I think I said all that correctly. So we are able to levy towards those funds if it's only for a one-on-one basis, not for just special education people, but that's our paraprofessionals. Adult education, a dollar difference. It just happens to be with how the calculator goes. We levy $500,000 on that. We have for the past several years because we haven't spent a bunch out of that, especially with COVID. So recommending the same. Technology, $50,000. Nothing in flexibility. Debt services, of course, that's a pretty good number, and that has to do with the bond, basically. So that number stays the same. So our building reserve, we do have that at 0. If you recall, several years ago, we ran it for $75,000 for several years. Right now, the balance in that building reserve, cash on hand, is $157,405. So you do have the option of running that if you so choose. Again, that the last time we ran that, which is a permissive levy, I think we did $75,000.
Is there a motion?
Let's see. So basically, there's a minor change, but they're all basically the same as they were last year.
It's not a minor change, Sean, in terms of transportation. Transportation expenses got up 41%.
Yeah, and that's because those contracts were renegotiated.
But we're
we can't do anything about that,
we're
right?
funding the obligation.
We're funding the obligation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but
Exactly. And of course,
There's nothing we're gonna do about it because it's the obligation.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you want to.
I don't wanna do it. I don't wanna do it. No way. No way. I'm past that age. Okay, I move to approve resolutions of intent to increase non-voted levies as determined by the board.
One second. Been moved and seconded to approve the resolutions of intent to increase non-voted levies as determined by the board. Is there any further discussion?
yes, Mr. Chairman, if I could. I know that we've got some different monies that are going to be made available, it sounds like maybe through SR2 and some of these other things that I would actually like to see if there's what can possibly fund, say our tuition permissive levy, some of those kind of things that we might be able to plug in here to lessen our non-voted levies. I understand that the purpose, and I just want to clarify, I understand the purpose is we're required by law to actually state our intent. And depending on the shape of the budget in August, we may not have to do that, but I guess I feel it's necessary to kind of state for the record that given the fact that we had our bond levy, we've had costs of everything that are going up right now. While, like I say, this is more of a procedural thing that we have to do at this point, I would actually like to charge the board with trying to find the funds to be able to, and I appreciate Mr. Wilkerson's efforts to, like with adult ed, to say, let's keep things where they are, but, another levy and another expense that is passed through this board onto the taxpayers of the county, I would like to have a second hard look with the additional monies, COVID or otherwise, grant monies, whatever we can find, so that these non-voted levies can be just whatever is the absolute bare minimum that we can afford.
Well, and we've done that before previously. We've cut, we said, we determined this during this meeting, and then we've been able to go ahead and cut those levies at different times during that August budget meeting. We've done that before. So I think as far as myself is concerned, I'm fully aware of that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Student attendance agreement.
So we have in front of us a student attendance agreement for Chase Michelson, who is actually in the Clancy School District, but attends school in Townsend. So I would ask that you approve that student attendance agreement.
I'll move to approve the student attendance agreement of Chase Michelson.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the attendance agreement with the family of Chase Michelson. Any further discussion? Discussion?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, just one quick question for Mr. Wilkerson. We are still proceeding with no tuition
Correct.
expense for out of district,
Correct.
having not seen the agreement, so I wanted to confirm that, so.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Approve the Masbo interim clerk services.
So Mr. Hamel did start working with Pam today, and we'll be in tomorrow to work with her also to kind of get everything organized so he can kind of take over those services. In the interim, while we work towards a new clerk, so I would ask that the board approve the Masbo interim clerk services.
Okay, I move to approve the interim clerk services through Maslow.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the interim clerk services through Masbo. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed.
I just have one question. What is the closing date for that?
I left it open until filled.
Oh, okay.
So we didn't have a hard date on it. I'm going to say probably sometime late next week that we would look and see what we have for a pool of candidates, figure out which two board members want to sit on that, and review those and set up some interviews.
Okay.
That's kind of my tentative idea.
Thank you.
Okay, personnel resignations. Carla Emmondson resignation retirement.
All right, you see a letter of resignation from Ms. Amundson in front of you. She has decided to retire this year. She submitted also the application for early retirement incentive. This will be effective May 28th. That'll be her last day. So I ask you to move to approve the resignation retirement of Carla Amundson as elementary music teacher, effective May 28th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resignation retirement of Carla Emmondson as elementary music teacher effective May 28, 2021. Any discussion? Discussion?
I would just like to thank Carla for all of her work through the years.
Yes.
Okay.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Pam Watson resignation retirement.
So Pam Watson has submitted a resignation effective, we're going to change that to March 18th. Will be her last day of 2021. I would like to personally thank Pam for for her years of service in the Townsend School District and all the help she's given me. So I would ask that you approve the resignation of Pam Watson.
I so move.
I will second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the resignation of Pam Watson as district clerk effective March 18th, 2021. Any further discussion?
No, and I would just like to say once again, the district clerk might be the toughest job in the district. And she's done great and really appreciate all of her efforts. You know, it's a tough job. Thank you, Pam, wherever you go.
Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Middle school cross-country.
Okay, Ann Ingram has submitted her letter of resignation for middle school cross-country. And I guess I would recommend that the board approve that. We do have another resignation that was not in the packet, but that I would like to add. I guess we do that after this one, just as a reminder.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the resignation of Ann Ingram as the middle school cross-country coach for the 2021-22 season.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the resignation of Ann Ingram as middle school cross-country coach for the 2021-2022 season. Any discussion? Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. The other resignation.
Yes, I did put the letter in front of you guys. We had a letter of resignation submitted by Mr. Tim Wedgwood, who was a paraprofessional, and that was effective immediately on March 4th of 2021.
So I move to approve the resignation of Tim Wedgwood as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resignation of Tim Wedgwood, effective immediately March 4th, 2021. Any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Employment, long-term substitute.
All right, so we have Shana Gillespie will be taking maternity leave here shortly. Lily Giono has been approved as a substitute. I'd like to recommend Ms. Giono as a long-term substitute for Shana. Ms. Giono is actually certified. So I guess, and at the rate of $75 a day, as we do with long-term subs.
Yeah, I'll move to approve Lily Giono as the long-term substitute at the rate of $75 per day.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Lily Giono as a long-term substitute at the rate of $75 per day. Any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Substitute.
And I'd like to add one to this one. Samuel Ward is a current student teacher and has applied for substitute teacher. I recommend that they approve Samuel. We also have an application from Karina Green as a substitute, and I'd like to approve her also pending a background check on her.
You say Karina?
Karina, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Samuel Ward as a substitute teacher for the 2020-21 school year and to approve Karina Green as a substitute teacher pending background check.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Samuel Ward as a substitute teacher for the 2020-2021 school year and Karina Green as a substitute pending successful background check. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. FFA volunteers.
So we do have a staff member out on maternity leave who just had a baby a few minutes or hours ago. I'm not sure.
224.
So there are 4 different contests that need to be covered, and between Sherry and I, we're not sure we could do all of them. Gemma suggested different volunteers to take those trips. The board would need to approve them in order to use those services, and of course, we would have to get background checks on them prior. So what we are looking here, like we've done with Mr. Broughton before, is allowing them to volunteer and actually take those trips. They are covered under our insurance and such, as long as we approve them as volunteers and have the appropriate paperwork. So I'm asking the board to please approve Hugh Broughton, Karen Noyes, John Ferret, and Samantha Ferret as volunteers for the 2021-2022 school year.
I move to approve.
Or, excuse me, should be 2020-2021 school year. I'm sorry, I got,
Okay. So I move to approve Hugh Broughton, Karen Noyes, John Ferret, Samantha Ferret as volunteers for the 2020-2021 school year. Yeah.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Hugh Broughton, Karen Noyes, John Ferret, and Samantha Ferret as volunteers for the 2020-2021 school year. Any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes.
Just wanted to thank you to those volunteers for stepping in to help us out a little bit and cover some of that territory we need to cover here in the next couple of months. It's appreciated.
Policy review. Policy 3235, video surveillance. This would be for second reading.
yes, if you recall, we talked about the video surveillance. And as we discussed, we would look at the optional on there that would, that it's the decision of the district that video recordings will include. Do we want to change that will to may?
It's not may.
Okay. May, including audio. And the
Yeah.
superintendent will notify staff and students through staff and student handbooks by other means, et cetera. Which means we do have to put up new signs that say they may contain audio.
Should we strike though the optional piece on that?
Yeah, we'll strike
We'll
optional.
We'll just strike that.
It'll be added.
Yeah.
And so, yes, all we have to do is give notice that it may be present.
Mr. Wilkerson, I thought, my recollection with the discussions with Chris Goss was that it's not when it's in policy, it's actually when we put the equipment in the school that would have the ability to do audio, that we would need to put the signage up.
Well, I think we have the ability right now.
Some of the current equipment
Yeah.
could have the ability.
Yeah.
So we have mics. If the equipment, if it was a case of basically just turning a switch
Correct.
and having the audio portion of that being available, then yes, the signage should be up. But if we don't have that equipment,
Implementation.
yeah, if that equipment isn't even installed and if it's not basically, ready to go live, then the notification isn't required.
But I think.
I, on the other hand, would
Just turn it on,
recommend
I think.
the notification anyway, to let people know we have not, maybe not the ability, but
Because
we have
this may be a
right.
future occurrence.
Well, and so for clarification, my understanding is that several of the video cameras do have audio and it only needs to be enabled.
Correct.
That's my guess. So the signage should be changed as a result.
yes.
Okay.
And we should be able to order signage pretty easy. We actually make some really quick until we can get something in that looks a little nicer.
Okay, so I moved to, that's the second reading, right? This is second reading,
Correct.
okay. So I move to approve policy 3235 as edited on second reading. I think I can do that.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve MTSBA law policy 3235, video surveillance with audio option as edited for second reading. Is there any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Policy 3300, discipline. This one's been a long time coming.
I told you before I retired, we were
Had
doing
had
it.
a couple bouts of COVID in the middle of it.
Kick this can down the road.
So,
Here, hey, I was just gonna mention, we need to edit that too. There's an addition to in that, just for, just for little minor edit. Under 3, second paragraph.
Yeah, that's an incorrect version to look at, Sean, so that's okay. Should have been provided, but I guess maybe it was not. That being said, I can give,
Yeah, what you got?
for the record, blow by blow. Well,
Would you like me to
so,
go get a,
Well, you sent it out.
you
I
said
did,
that,
So
but
everybody-
it's, and I know we've had some feedback and it had been reviewed informally, but the clean version of the policy is not available in.
In our book.
Okay. So, the only version that is available in the packet, I guess, and for those that are keeping score at home, you know, I can, you know, in a matter of about, 10 bullet points, something like that, can explain those changes. So I'll defer to you, Mr. Chairman. Do you want to have the clean copies available for review, for vote, and have those run off now? Or is kind of the blow by blow the engrossing of all of the.
I brought the one you sent.
Okay.
and I could go to, you are welcome to do the 3300F if you would like, because I do have clean copies of that sitting right here, and I can go get the other, but it's
I think-
totally up to you
I
guys.
think we're good.
Okay, all right. So, like I say, just as I told the Student Services Committee, as I informed the board, it is kind of a refresher. On first reading, we had our existing policy, we had the model MTSBA policy, we reviewed that, we sent it out to our legal counsel for review. Our legal counsel sent back basically 2 versions. She sent back one that didn't look like the MTSBA version and was very much stripped down version, and one that she was more familiar with working with. And one that was more of a middle, kind of a balance between what she thought was superfluous in the model policy and what her recommendations went with. And so that is the document that was used as the base for the policy that's being voted on. Mr. Wilkerson has it on second reading, or on first reading. And I guess
We did do a first reading.
we did do a first
I didn't-
reading, so it probably should technically be on second reading as amended. So, again, I'll defer to you, Mr. Chairman, if you want to take a step back and ostensibly redo first reading, or if we can continue on second reading.
I am good with second reading as
Okay.
amended.
All right, so based on the model policy, the changes that were incorporated into the clean version, I've actually got one here, Sean.
Oh, great, perfect, thank you.
You can follow on, was that the kind of the policy-oriented text that, and some of this was in the model MTSBA policy was actually assigned some line numbers. So the board acknowledgement at the top of the policy, you know, regarding that, you know, the board's acknowledgement of a student's due process was unstruck and was put back into the main document itself. The procedure descriptions on line 1, after the definition of suspension, have been reinstituted because, again, having some semblance of a procedural flow to the document, to the committee, was beneficial. Be able to see exactly what step in the policy we are. Policy text that was accepted as stricken and removed from this particular policy was the removal of the superfluous language and the definition of suspension from the prior draft. Sections have actually been renumbered. I did that kind of assigned suspension as section 1. Expulsion would be a section 2. Procedures for suspension and expulsion with students that fall under IDEA is section 3. So former section 3, which is actually going to be renumbered 1.3, contains some potentially unnecessary explanation of communication. So that information has been stricken. Section in the expulsion portion of the policy, the statutory reference to the requirement for a hearing has been removed. Under the student records portion, which was section 6 on page 3 of 4, has been removed. Again, this is redundant to statute and actually to administrative rule. The elaboration of IDEA on pages 3 and 4. Should we find ourselves in the position of having to address a procedural issue with section 504 outside of what actually remains intact, then, both our legal counsel and MTSBA said it was advisable to provide, the parent or the requesting party with whatever the latest version is of IDEA at that time, because that's a little bit more fluid than what our policy is. And so if we give deference to whatever the most current version of it is, and then work to resolve whatever issue it is we have at that time. Again, from a format change, policy has just kind of been reformatted and renumbered to hopefully to make it flow a little bit better. Procedural subsections are formatted in a numeric form and intended to kind of improve the flow and the referencing. New section 1.3 regarding communications between administration and a parent is a bit more concise, but we wanted it to remain clear that communication with the parent or the legal guardian is an administration priority. Section 1.4 has been revised to reflect the discipline referral system and the right to appeal to the superintendent, even if the parent makes that appeal verbally through phone call or face-to-face engagement. Section 1.5 is at least how it is new, which I guess we're in section 5 on page 2 or 4, at least in the older policy, has been revised to remove the final disposition of the suspension resting with the superintendent. And upon speaking with the School Board Association Council, that's a little bit inconsistent with our uniform complaint procedure, which is actually under policy 1700. The School Board Association actually is revamping the model policy for the uniform complaint procedure. And while they agree with the spirit of the portion of the policy, it said that any appeals of a suspension rest, the buck stops with the superintendent, is something that is still in development. It's where, if it were a court or a hearing or something like that, where the parties stop having a dispute about the facts and we actually get to the issues, or if there was a violation of policy or a violation of law or the application of policy.
In brief now, again, how is that with
we have a uniform complaint procedure that says that there are certain things that can always be elevated to the board.
Correct.
But there gets to be certain areas where you can, the student or the parent on behalf of the student can only appeal that administration misapplied the policy, or there's a fundamental right that is kind of, is integrated into the policy, and it was through the application of that policy that there's miscarriage of justice or what you might have. So that it is underneath the uniform complaint procedure that those kinds of things get elevated to the board.
And that's what MTSBA is working on a new policy.
MTSBA already has it. I received it at 5 o'clock today, so.
Okay.
What eventually will end up happening, we'll need to put have that policy be put on the agenda and talk about it, because our uniform complaint procedure has to deal with more than just suspension and expulsion. It's lots of other things, and
that's the 3000 series policy too?
1700,
1700.
because it deals with administration,
Okay.
district administration. So, but yeah, so anyway, the final suspension policy will just say, at the end in section 1.5 that the superintendent, what, given the totality of circumstances, things like that, the suspension will, the superintendent is authorized under the policy to set the length of suspension as they deem appropriate. Obviously, again, as that dovetails into our uniform complaint procedure, they can petition the board, not ostensibly under this policy, but under the UCP. And then there were a few other minor text edits that were made in here as well. Let's see here. The last section regarding our discussion, it's actually current section 2.6. It was former section 7 in the document on page 3 or 4 in our packet, was the aspect of trying to give some administration feedback to the board about the efficacy of our conditional enrollment program. That section has actually been revised to make that the reporting is that it isn't on a monthly basis or anything that's so structured as that the reporting would be at the option or the request of the board versus just being a monthly mechanism. And that it would, kind of more clearly states that what the goal of the report is, and that it recognizes the potential for the reporting to be made in a closed session. So it covers us a little bit more soundly that way, and I think it still meets the thrust of what I know what Kevin has had, voiced those concerns, as have I, that how do we know that the aspects of the conditional enrollment that we're putting into place, sometimes on a case-by-case basis, but sometimes maybe not, that they're actually having the effect and getting some feedback on our student status. So I think that achieves its purpose, at least as we move forward. Insofar as the conditional enrollment agreement, the changes that were recommended by legal counsel were all very sound. I think they took what was a pretty good start to a document and made it a better document. So the minor red line edits that our legal counsel suggested have been adopted into that document. And then we will have an appendix or appendices that will be developed by the board together with administration for what will be the considerations for the conditional enrollment based on the types of infractions. Thankfully, we haven't had to deal with a whole lot of different issues that maybe larger schools or other states and towns do, but that will be something that is a little bit more kind of organic in nature, and those the appendices and things like that will actually be used kind of as an internal working document to plug in terms and conditions into a conditional enrollment. And we actually have a version of that was provided to us by legal counsel. It does have some information in it about concerns and observations that she made. And so I think at some point in time, we will I don't necessarily know that it is developed enough that it needs to have even full committee. I don't think it's anything that we need to refer to the committee at this point. I think that maybe as we have discussions about putting terms into a conditional enrollment agreement into this new agreement, then that would be the time to probably tackle those. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope that, like I say, the document, that the policy, the revised agreement, serves its intended purpose.
Nope, I appreciate all the work you put into that, and the committee too. It's definitely been a long time coming.
Yeah.
Put a lot of effort into that. Okay, is there?
Okay, so I move to approve policy 3300, discipline for second reading
As amended.
as amended.
And the conditional agreement as well.
Well, that's a separate thing. So, as amended, and that's my motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve policy 3300, discipline on second reading as amended. Any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. One question I have on the conditional enrollment, did we have a first reading on that as well? Would it be second reading, or would this be an actual first reading on that?
On conditional enrollment, we did have, that agreement was prepared and we had got our feedback.
So we did
from council at that time, so
So it will
it would technically be second reading as amended as well, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and with that, now, again, I was just gonna go back. Do I have the right copy of this, Todd? Because
That is legal advice, that is from
legal
council.
advice, true.
So that is not,
But this part, this is the only part on, and I'm not sure if this is in the final project.
this is an appendix, so the appendix is an internal working document, so.
Okay, so
The appendix is not a part of the motion or the actual agreement.
Okay, so within, as we consider it later on, this is something to remember as we consider this later on, and during our discussion at the meeting where we talked about that, this was, the district personnel piece was.
Correct.
Started to be struck.
Correct.
Okay, so
And,
that's
and
just-
that will dovetail with some other
Right.
discussions that, based on the issues that are.
And that was part of that discussion that day that we
Correct.
had. Yes, that's correct. Okay, and so I will also then move to approve policy 3300F conditional enrollment agreement for second reading as amended.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded to approve policy 3300F, conditional enrollment reading for second reading as amended. Any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Policy 1905, emergency measures.
All right, so I have included both the current policy and the MTSBA policy with the options available for change. The additions to the new options available, basically the additions are, and I marked all this up so hopefully you can follow where I'm at, is first paragraph under option 1, required face coverings, discusses the trustee's ability to adopt, implement, and enforce the requirement. Starting on line 4, page 3. Added volunteers, visitors, and school-aged. It added face covering, mask, or face shield, where before I believe maybe it was just a mask. Added regardless of vaccination status. Added the school district also requires all staff, volunteers, visitors, and school-age students to wear a face covering, mask, or face shield while present at any outdoor school activity with 50 or more people where physical distancing is not possible or is not observed. It added face covering, mask, or face shield means disposable or reusable covering that cover nose and mouth. Starting at line 15, page 3, Provisions on when students, staff, volunteers, and visitors are not required to wear masks. Where and when staff may be allowed to remove masks. Consequences for harassment of person wearing or not wearing a mask will be investigated, and failure to wear a mask will be subject to disciplinary action. So those are all the additions from our current policy to what MTSBA is recommending to add. So you can either leave the policy as is, or you can move to approve the, I guess, amended policy using the first option 2 and the second option 1.
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
I have something that I'd like to say about this. First of all, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Can I ask, state your name, please?
Tina Stewart. And I prepared a speech, 3 minutes long, to go to deal with this, but I'm not going to say it. I would like to point out that Mr. Rock has been absolutely amazing in providing masks to people that don't have them at games and so on and so forth, because sometimes you just forget. But having children wear masks and their parents wear masks all of the time has not become a safety issue as it is a control issue. And Mr. Olson was so nice to display that for the past 7 minutes. He was trying to talk and he had to pull down his mask to speak to us. And I'm not angry, I'm not upset at all. But if Christian schools can go about their business every day and play sports and have kids in their school and not have masks, and their teachers, and I know because my best friend is the teacher at a Christian school, not one COVID case in that school. And it's the biggest Christian school in Helena, Montana. I think that Townsend can do better than that. I think that we can do better for our kids and our teachers and our families, because my daughter is in the 3rd grade and she was unable to do any sports at all this year. And when she asked why she couldn't do sports that middle school and high school was able to, the response was, it's because you don't generate any money for the school. How devastating that you can't do sports because you have a mask. You have to wear masks and you're too dirty at that point. That is what she got out of it. That, Mommy, maybe I might catch it and give it to somebody. That is not fair. The mask, Broadwater County has lifted it. Our school needs to lift it as well.
Question on, we don't have any elementary level sports, so I'm curious where that came from.
It was a while ago, and I'm just not at liberty to say because I don't know 100% because it came from 3rd grader, right? So I just like to give grace. But, and I will say too, I had to drop off my son's Chromebook because he had a big presentation in his agriculture class he was super excited about. He was so excited he forgot his Chromebook. And I ran it in, I was on my way to work and I forgot my mask and I was waiting outside and there was a woman that was being helped by Miss Christie and it was taking a little longer than expected. And like I said, I was in a hurry on my way to work. So I was just gonna slide the Chromebook in and hop out. And part of the reason it was taking so long is there was a staff member speaking with this lady at the front and she stopped me at the front and unlike Mr. Rock, oh, here, can I get you a mask? Or like Christy, here, I have 2 boxes of masks. Do you want one? She stopped me and she says, you need to stop right there. You don't have a mask. I said, I just want to drop off my son's Chromebook. Instead of taking the Chromebook, she kept her hand up and said, no, you need to leave the school. You do not have a mask, right? So she's freaked out that I don't have a mask on because I am a completely healthy 43-year-old woman who never goes to the doctor. So I just put the Chromebook on the counter and walked out respectfully. This is the kind of stuff that we're dealing with the masks. Everyone is at risk.
Thank you. I guess either discussion or a motion. I guess, go ahead, John.
Oh, well, I just kind of think now, and I just wanted to ask again, Eric, about the options on this particular policy. Is this for, do I recall that this is for second reading?
First reading.
No, this would
Table.
be, yeah, be first reading because we
We
tabled it.
tabled it because there was a number of different options and we want more clarification.
Yes, well, I want to make sure that we.
The policy we had in place,
Yeah.
Carrie,
We still have.
we discussed.
Yeah, we had it, yeah. Okay, and that's a question I want to kind of try to understand. That was what I wanted to understand. Okay. What is, and Eric, your recommendation for the options?
I guess I had the recommendations for, I guess it's.
Our existing 1905 policy already has option 1, which is on page 1,
Yeah.
lines 41 to 45. So we already, when we adopted the emergency measures policy, we already adopted option 1 out of those 2 options. Upon counsel from administration, and that one seemed to work. So the second set of options is what is
And
new.
you're speaking to this. You're speaking to that.
Yes, that is already in our existing policy.
Right.
And that's where I think there's some confusion is that the way the policy is being offered up now, it should have probably been, if the district has already adopted the 1900 series policies, this is the only chunks that you need to consider instead of sending out the entire thing.
Yeah.
So we are operating underneath option 1 on page 1.
Right.
Which is, maintaining 6-foot distance.
So we're not, I thought we were under option 2.
Yes.
We are under,
I thought we were option.
To the extent possible.
to the extent possible.
Yeah, so we are under option.
Okay, we are, we're under
Okay.
option 2. Okay, that's
So
fine.
we've selected one of those, so we're under option right now. So it's the second,
Okay, so it's not 1.
it's the bottom of
Okay.
page 2.
It's confusing because they have option 1, option 2, and then
Yeah.
option 1 and option 2 again, instead of option 1 and 2 and option A and B.
Yeah.
It would have separated.
So we,
Okay.
And
under
Does that make sense?
Is this what he's talking about?
Right, physical distancing is option 2.
Or are you talking about these options?
Okay.
Just so I can put
Physical
them here.
distancing was
So the ones I have
option
highlighted
Yeah.
in blue are the ones that I am
Option 1,
recommending.
okay.
Yes, so it's this option.
Under this option.
Yeah, there's option 1 and 2. If
there
it
wasn't
was 2, this is option 1 and 2.
so everything from line
And this
38
Okay.
on page 2.
So I specify that in here, but that's confusing how they did that. So I highlighted them in blue.
Okay, so to understand this correctly, then if, okay, I'm only saying if, but I want to understand. So we could, we're currently under the policy on, and the first part of this is option 2 that we already have in place. Now, with that said, under face coverings as personal protective equipment, if we choose, because you have recommended option 1, this is the new MTSBA, as I understand, content.
Yeah.
Okay, under option 1, that's actually all of it with option 1, that would mean that we would include page 2, line 40 to page 3, line 41, basically, 40 at the end of that section, and exclude page 342 onto on to, must be page 4, line 5. Do I have that, do I understand that option series correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I've highlighted the options
Okay,
in
okay.
blue are the ones that are
Okay,
being suggested.
I just didn't know where option 2 actually ended.
What did you say, Eric? The ones in blue are the ones that you were suggesting?
Yes,
Oh,
that I guess that I would recommend that, because, like I said, we have option 2 right now,
Okay,
of the first 2 options.
okay.
The option 1 on the next page
on the face
and the
cover.
option 2 those are the new ones to choose from.
Okay.
And I would say the option
And then so
1 would be more consistent with what we're doing, but it just explains it a little better of what's a face mask, a shield,
And like on page 4, then when it says cleaning and disinfecting, that's beyond the option sets, correct?
And
that's in our current policy now.
That's in the current policy?
Yes.
Okay, so upon the recommendation of Mr. Wolferson, I would move to approve policy 1905, COVID-19 emergency measures. Under the first section, option 2. Under the second section, face coverings, option 1. On first reading. I think that was first reading.
Should we do first reading or can we do amended?
It is first reading.
It's
It is first reading, I just want to make sure.
Because we tabled this last time because we just needed more clarification, as I
Yes.
recall, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And hopefully I gave you
I
that.
don't even think we really tabled it.
We just did.
Past
We just-
consideration.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that's my motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve MTSBA model policy 1905 using option 2 in the first section and option 1 in the second section for first reading. Is there any discussion?
I would just like to say, Mrs. Stewart, we're not insensitive to your concerns. I don't want to seem that way. Our concerns are with some of our teachers who are vulnerable and elderly members of our community. And since the school is kind of a gathering place, kind of a hub of the community, it's my feeling anyway, I can't speak to the other board members, but it is a measure that we can use to help protect those people. And, there's a lot of information out there pro and con about the effectiveness of it, but I think it's something that it's where Montana's at with this right now and other places in the country, our schools are open. There's a lot of places that haven't even opened their schools yet. So I think we're moving as best we can and still trying to protect those people most vulnerable.
Yeah, I would add that, I'm going off our track record on where we've been for the year. It has worked and it's continuing to work. I know everybody's tired of wearing masks, but, all I can say is, we've made it this far. I know there's changes being made around us in the county. I think we need to keep our task going until we see how that affects us. We haven't seen what really the effect of the county dropping it could potentially have on the school. And I think it is our best course of action to continue what we're doing.
When is the forecasted end of the face coverings?
We mentioned that earlier, that, our main metric or target right now will be once the majority of the teachers are vaccinated or all of the teachers are vaccinated that want to be. Once that happens, then I think we can take a very serious look at changing.
Are the vaccines going to be a requirement for the students to return next year?
Not under my.
Not unless it were mandated by either the state or the feds. We have no control, but no. And I don't think they will do that, and I don't think they can. So no. We're more concerned about our veteran older people.
Right. And I completely
Yeah.
understand that.
And we do want our doors open.
Considered what I have to say. And
No, we appreciate you coming and voicing your concerns, and we have considered it and continue to consider it, Kate. Like I
And
said.
Mr. Brock has seriously been a rock star, no pun intended, but handing out masks and being so kind and gracious about it. So I do want to,
Don't let his head get in the hand.
I do want to give him accolades for that because our family is so thankful that he's so caring and kind.
Yeah, and I do want to
Thank
just
you.
kind of second or third or whatever this is, we just want to, our real goal from the very beginning is to try to keep everybody safe. As safe as possible. We're gathering together, keep kids safe, keep teachers, keep the kids safe, keep our teachers safe, keep the administration, anybody that comes to the school, that from the very beginning, that's been our whole goal, is just to try to keep everybody safe. And then if we need to do this a little longer to try to achieve that, let's keep kids safe, keep everyone safe. I mean, that's really important to me.
Sure. And I'm sorry I picked on you, Mr.
Oh, no, you're fine, thank you. No, since it was open for discussion. I just, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I guess, we have a 1905 policy package that is in effect, and remains in effect on the books until June 30th. Personally, I think that the options, the new MTSBA language takes a step in the wrong direction. There are changes that are being made on vaccination status and people allowing groups of people who are fully vaccinated to gather and to do what it is that they need. And my first desire would be to actually kick this can down the road a bit further, to see just exactly what positions get firmed up. Because again, just in the last 2 weeks, there's guidance out now of households or groups where they're fully vaccinated, that this isn't an issue. And the regardless of vaccination language in the policy, and for some of those other reasons, I can't support that option. So, and I actually am also of the belief that if what we're doing works, and I wholeheartedly agree that it does, that we don't need a piece of paper in a policy that says that it does. So I for those, if, it's the will of the board to put this, I mean, evidently we've got a motion and a second on that, and I certainly respect that, but I'm not going to be able to support that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I think to me, the major difference with option one around the face coverings is, as I recall, the original 1905 only discussed if you, and again, I'm trying to recall this, only discussed face mask, whereas this particular option discusses face coverings or masks or face shields.
Mhm.
So it's just more comprehensive in that way, and I think that's a key point to that.
It defines it a little broader.
Defines it a little broader.
Than
Otherwise,
I read it and I understand all that.
Yeah, otherwise-
I just, in my good conscience and with neighbors that I've talked to, who eventually are the folks whose will it is that I'm trying to help see enacted into work. Like I said, I cannot support that. So, I guess, Mr. Chairman, and I guess I would move the question. Call the question, I should say. Just put it to a vote.
All those in favor of the motion and second, I will restate it. Move to approve NTSBA model policy using option 2 and option 1 for first reading. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed,
No.
motion passes. 3-1.
Do we need to do a roll call? Split vote.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, please raise your right hand.
So you have 3
Motion
ayes and 1
passes
nay.
3-1.
Okay, that's right. Okay.
Maybe just write who they were.
Policy
for the record.
3340,
voted which way?
extracurricular.
Right, their names, who voted, yeah, which one.
Okay.
Sorry, I was yapping.
One more, hang in there.
Sorry.
Oh, my gosh, okay. So this is 3340, extra and co-curricular alcohol, drug, and tobacco use. District's current policy is the same as the MTSBA model policy. I'd recommend that we approve it for, as reviewed. Basically talks about it being extracurricular activities being a privilege, and that, we want to keep them healthy and all sorts of stuff, and that, we expect them to be drug-free, and that we can do that basically violations of established rules and regulations governing chemical use by participants in extracurricular will result in discipline as stated in student athletic handbooks. So it's basically just sports what we have in our handbooks.
Is there a motion?
I would approve policy 3340. Is this the first reading?
It would be just as reviewed because it's the same, and then we're done.
And I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve policy 3340, extracurricular and co-curricular alcohol, drug, and tobacco use as reviewed.
Who seconded that?
Oh, Sean?
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes. Principal's report, Mr. Ross.
So, obviously we spent a good portion of this meeting talking about the construction project. And there's a couple things I think that are kind of on the horizon that we need to start thinking about. I don't know about you guys, but us definitely. And some of that is, the playground relocation is gonna have to occur really quickly. And we're really hopeful, and listening, it sounds like end of the month, maybe, or.
He said he'd like to see a shovel in the ground in the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, so that's coming up really quickly. And I know Christina, Ms. Hartman has worked really hard on some suggestions, and we're talking to staff about those. And I think we'll have everything worked out. The thing I guess I really want to emphasize is that the excitement of a new building and all the work we've done and everybody, it seems great. The hard part is going to be the inconvenience that we're going to go through during the construction phase. And I think that's going to start kind of with the having to really move our kids around for that recess time. And then looking toward the end of the year, I think we need to kind of start thinking about a plan for where to store things and all those, all those little things that I don't know really get considered as we go through the big picture stuff. So just some things to kind of keep in the back of your mind, and if anybody has ideas about that. I'm concerned that storage is going to be an issue over the summer and what we'll do, but I know Mr. Riddle's been thinking about it a lot and has some plans, and how to get all that done in a timely manner is going to be a pressing issue at some point. Regional Science Fair that I think
Just to touch on that for a second, Brad, if you guys get a plan together, maybe we can have like a volunteer weekend or something to do that. I don't know if that's part of our construction plan or not.
Yeah, and my understanding was no, I know, and again, going back a long ways, but with the high school, we were on our own for all that.
Yeah.
And we can certainly do that.
Yeah. If you guys
Are they
get a
gonna
plan
have to be
together,
taken apart?
We can get some, could do whatever we gotta do. We had some equipment before there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or
BC brought it in and, even if we gotta pay them a little bit.
Last year school, I want to pick up the desk and go.
So, yeah.
Good plan.
Did you?
Oh, no, I was curious, like, how much of the equipment, I guess was the plan to tear down some, to keep some of it kind of intact and move it? I mean, there might be some places, landowners that might be willing to let us, if it could be picked up and kind of moved in one piece. And and sat down there, that the difficulty, I guess, if it was someplace in town, then you run the risk of people climbing on it and, or,
Right.
you know, damage and those kinds of things, but.
So I think we're gonna have, most of the storage capability will come from the building that we're in, especially the lunchroom gym area. And I know, I think Mr. Riddle was hoping to designate areas for each grade level where we could, it'd be tight, and that, the downside of that is that room would probably be out of commission all summer, which it does get used by not only the school, but by a lot of community groups too, but I think it's probably just gonna be the way it is. And we can get, I believe, the vast majority of the things we need to store in that, but then that will create some other issues probably over the summer, and you know, I guess we'll just kind of see, and I'll get with Mr. Riddle, and we can kind of come up with a plan as to whether we need some other type of storage or whatever, and what he's anticipating that we keep. And that's gonna be, you know, some interesting conversations of what just stays and goes, and whether we go and try to salvage, and cost effectiveness of using some older things, or do we replace those as we do it? And, you know, being mindful of our budget and everything else, you know, and issues even like those lockers. I think there's some value in trying to do that down in that part of the school. Timeline for it is gonna be hard, and I know Mr. Riddle's crew is gonna be stretched really thin too, so some of those things could become maybe some volunteer type jobs.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, community work weekend or something like that. So,
Right,
thank you.
yeah, that'd be great.
Do you know who's doing the track thing down there at the Ford dealership?
Yeah, I do.
Everything on the phone.
I told all the guys.
Eric Kruger
Yeah,
is
Eric
kind of one of the leads on there.
One of the local churches here.
They might be interested in some of that older stuff.
Yeah, yeah. There's some-
Yeah, I've been in contact, he's contacted me. I just wrote a letter of support for him, for that. One of our students is gonna sit on their board, Aaron Geiser. They're gung ho, so.
Yeah. I'd like
Yeah,
to
I'll
see
touch
how
base
that
with him.
goes. That's an interesting idea. Hope it works out. Any other questions about I'll move on. Regional Science Fair, I just want to say thank you for our school level science fair, all the volunteers that were willing to try a new format. We really appreciate it. It went quite well. The students did a great job. The students have become very good and very computer savvy, and the teachers did a really good job too of making it happen. And same with I mentioned last month at the regional science fair, the formatting for it. And it's a situation where our school usually, we do great at the regional and state levels. And I don't believe we've received the results yet, but they did all of that virtually, and it was really a challenge. Everything had to be formatted a certain way. It took a ton of work from the teachers and the kids. But I heard they did very well. Kindergarten roundup and kindergarten registration it's getting to be that time of year where we're looking toward next year and what next year might look like. We will find a way to safely do kindergarten roundup. That's a really important thing we missed out on last year. And we really get a lot of valuable information from students and the specialists that come in to help with the assessing. But the teachers or the parents also get some really valuable information about their children and what to expect. So we are going to be able to do that this year. We'll just expand it and do it in a more spread out, safe way. So that's good, because this year was tough, and it felt like I think the kindergarten teachers were really under the gun, trying to learn some things about their students that they will generally learn at this. Parent-teacher conferences were actually a success. People were great when they came to visit us. I really appreciate the public's willingness to come in and kind of go by our rules and make things happen, and have those conversations about their students. We generally do not have nearly the turnout for the spring ones that we do for the fall, but ours was decent. And then state testing is something that's kind of, last year we missed out on the state testing, and we talked a little bit about that at the time. And, we really get some good information on our students about that and our school and how our school's performing and our strategies and everything else. Right now, the state of Montana has applied for a waiver. It's pending. But the Department of Ed has 120 days to decide on that, which would be June 5th. So we're proceeding as if we're going to test. And we actually want to, just, I certainly would hope that, the entities that use those don't use them in a way, I guess, a negative way against any school this year, because it's been such a crazy year, and I commend any school that's been able to stay open and do things. But we really do get some valuable information. We'd like to do them. So unless we are told not to, we will. But there's some really strange things because, a lot of schools aren't, some of our more local schools just started back in person recently, and others aren't. So I don't know what will be decided. And there's usually a percentage of students that have to be tested. They've notified us that they will waive that, so we don't have to worry necessarily about students that are learning remotely. But that will occur in April and May.
Now, what's the title of that particular test? Is that?
Smarter Balance?
Smarter Balance.
Yeah.
Smarter Balance. Okay. It might be advantageous. I mean, given we might do really well by comparison to.
Oh, I think we would, and we usually do. I think that, there needs to be some, and one of the things we talked about at the beginning of the year was how everything's just a little behind, and I don't care how good a job you've done, you've missed a lot of educational time and things have not progressed as they probably normally would. We're gonna see that ripple effect for years to come. I think some schools that have done, in the testing that they've done have shown that, not only did they not lose ground, they continued to gain significant ground. And I think we've done a very good job in our district. And it'd be interesting to see how we perform on those tests this year. I think we'll do well in comparison to a lot of other places. But it is, state testing is a big resource crunch for us, as far as the equipment we need, the computers, the time, the space, everything else. So, it's a big deal for every district. It's got to put a lot of thought into it. That's it.
Any questions for Mr. Ross?
All right, so I just want to start off by congratulating our programs that finished up some of their seasons just recently, our wrestling program and our basketball program. The boys made it to divisionals and made it into Saturday's contests, and they just like we've been talking a lot tonight about, current conditions and everything that we're having to deal with and how different thing is and how off everything feels. The seasons were shorter, they were compact, they were, definitely under a lot of different circumstances to run tournaments and all these other things. And honestly, our kids did great. They competed very well. They just hung in there. We had 2 wrestlers go to state. Unfortunately, one of them lost out in his second round by 1 point, very close matches for him, and the other one had to forfeit because of injury, which, as Mr. Odell says, happens to a wrestler sometime during their career. So unfortunately, just bad timing. So again, though, just all of our students represent our school so well. We get nothing but compliments about how well behaved they are and what classy kids they are. So very happy about that. Our BPA also, everything's gone virtual, obviously, this year. They competed in a virtual Region 4 Leadership Conference contest. We had 3 individuals take first place in their categories. And then we also had a student take a second place and a fourth place. So they continue to just keep rolling in whatever way possible to do their activities. So I know Mr. Horn's been working with them to start doing, to do some of their next competition as well. And like we already discussed, FFA and all those things are kind of rolling into their postseason, so to speak, or their end of the year activities. So just keeping on in all of our programs. We did have a tech committee meeting today. We covered a lot of discussion about Chromebooks. Some good things have come out of our situation that we've been dealing with as well. We are definitely looking like we're going to remain one-on-one device to students, one-to-one with our devices. We looked at how we need to replace some of those because they are aging out at their 5-year mark as far as being able to be supported and kept to be used safely. We talked about replacing software for our lobby TVs, our carousel programs, where we run a lot of our updates and informational things on those, and our software is just basically out of commission, correct? Joe, yeah, it's just done, and so we have to look at something new to replace that with. Yes, sorry.
At one point, quite a while ago, we were waiting on a bunch of books that we had ordered.
We
did get those.
Yeah, we did get them. We talked about that too, like if we're looking at a 5-year cycle, what are the numbers that we need right to now to kind of get flush with that so that we can start rotating? Because we have some that are slowly dying and they're running into that 5-year mark where they're not going to be sustainable past that 5 years. We also talked about, I'm going to talk to some other school districts about, since we're moving this direction, with our high school kids, having them, they will have a device all 4 years, and then at the end of that 4 years, giving them the option to buy that device at a very reduced cost so that they leave the school with a piece of equipment in their hands, a device in their hands that they can take on to whatever else they want to do. I know a lot of schools do that, and we felt like that was a good, option. It would encourage kids to take really good care of that if they know maybe at the end of it in a few years, they're actually going to get to take that with them. And that would help offset some of the, costs and honestly, send a lot of kids out here that wouldn't have a device otherwise at a very affordable way to do that. So that was a lot of our discussion at our tech meeting. Just looking at how we're going to negotiate some of those things and how we would check them back in and check them out. Would a kid keep the same device all 4 years? We kind of said we kind of think that might be a good idea, so that they're using the same ones.
Sherry, I was just going to mention,
Yeah,
I mentioned this to Jill just a little bit ago as I was going home after the meeting. I got thinking about that particular request, a Minecraft server request. And I think probably a good solution around that, and I'll sponsor this myself, is probably having to move a Minecraft server to an AWS service and being able to access things remotely that way. So I think that'll solve the problem
Okay.
for those guys.
Okay. We had some students propose hosting a Minecraft server on our server. So they wrote us a proposal and we discussed it today and kind of the pros and cons of something like that. So, okay.
Yeah,
We'll talk about
and
that
I
further.
think, and also just to state widely or more broadly, using those kinds of applications like Minecraft as educational tools are really, really great things to do. It creates a huge amount of engagement and motivation, and students can learn a ton around critical thinking, problem solving, and have a great time doing it. So some things that we should probably, tools that we should probably, would really be advantageous to take a look at.
I know.
What's that? I'm sorry?
No, don't get him started.
Don't get me started.
You guys gotta do it at least once. You
It was a
gotta
very
do that once,
prosperous
please.
tech committee meeting, so yeah. I think in general, we just continue to try to, meet our students where they are. I mean, this is their world, this is where they're learning, this is what they're engaging in, and just using anything we can to help promote that in a positive, good, structured, in a well-structured way.
Mrs. Heaven, when you get, oh,
Yeah, no, I'm sorry,
because you're plowing along there. So has the tech committee looked at shortening the life cycle from 5 years to 4 years in order to be able to meet those goals and kind of what it would take to do that? 5 years is a long time on a replacement cycle.
It is.
I know at the state of Montana, for the longest time, the goal was 3 years.
Right.
And then whenever they were looking for money, they'd say, oh, we'll just bump out the cycle for equipment out to 4 years. And hey, and look at the savings that we have. And then 4 years becomes 5 years. And then when you're in your job and you're trying to do a job with a dated piece of equipment, trying to run newer software, then, because updates get pushed out and,
And that's what
all of the equipment demands are pushed by the software demands.
Right.
And so I didn't know if those kinds of discussions have come up, because I think that is, it's the easiest solution to just say, oh yeah, well, we'll just, we'll knock it out another year or something like that to replace it. And
the 5 years.
it becomes a doorstop after a while.
Yeah, definitely. The 5 years actually, and Joe, you can help me with this if I don't get this right. The 5 years speaks exactly to being able to update it, keep it current, keep be able to use it as efficiently as we can in the capacity of a Chromebook. So my understanding is the workings of the actual machine don't change that much. It's the updates, the security.
So licensing from Google is what the 5-year mark is. So when we buy it, you have to pay for it annually, but it's only able to be kept licensed for 5 years. And then from that point, you lose the ability to get updates. So they can still use the device just fine. It doesn't stop the use of the device or affect the use of the device after 5 years. It's just, you can only get it licensed for that period of time.
Support.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the reason why we've chosen 5 years as that magic number. There's no other reason other than that.
Okay.
There's another point to the Chromebooks, just from a techie sort of geeky perspective, is that basically you're working with a client server environment, and the Chromebook's simply a client that's using a web service to go out to talk to the servers. So it's simply pulling data, and therefore it doesn't have to be really jacked up in order to be able to continue to run. That provides a longer lifespan for that particular device. So 5 years is a long time, of course, but it's not like you're really pushing the machine with any kind of high-end software. So you're just browsing.
Gotcha. Thank you. Appreciate that.
I think another thing to keep in mind there is if we replace 120 computers a year with the $50 software, I believe is what it is, you're looking at about $30,000. And if you up that to 162, which would be every 4 years, you're looking at about $40,500. We're only running our levy for $50,000. So just numbers.
No, I appreciate that info. Thank you.
But I just wanted, you guys on the committee though, I just want to say that as me as just inviting me, thank you for inviting me, and I just sort of sit there and just a bystander. You guys are great.
Thank you. We try. So about a month ago, Mrs. Adet and Mrs. Lampman and Jill and I, Mrs. Flynn and I got together to discuss doing a couple of ACT prep nights. We have the ACT coming up on March 23rd. As Brad spoke to that is the test that we use in the high school in lieu of the Smarter Balance. We actually use our ACT test. So we surveyed the students, rolled out this idea, hey, would you guys be interested in a couple nights a week? Obviously, this is volunteer time for Mrs. Adet et al. Mrs. Lampman has experience actually tutoring kids to take the ACT. She had that previous experience in Billings and said I would be more than happy to help donate the time and energy to that, as well as Mrs. Flynn and Mrs. Adet. And so we had our first one tonight, and after our first meeting, I rolled around the corner expecting to see, some few kids take advantage of this, and there were like 17 kids sitting in that room. So I was so excited to see that on their own time, looking to get tutors and strategies for taking the ACT, to get some tutoring. Mrs. Lampman was outstanding. She knows her stuff, how to coach them on how to look and break down questions, exactly what that test is going to look like, how they format things. It was great. The kids did some practice tests. We're going to do a couple of these, open for anybody to participate in that's going to take this test. And it was just really neat to see a group of young people advocate, take a resource and use it. I was very excited to see all those kids in there. And I think they were happy to be able to have the opportunity to do that. So that was good. That's going to be a good thing. We are going to get the ACT. We'll do it in, we gave one in October, which was odd. That was to replace the one we missed in last spring when we got all shut down that we could not do. So we are going to do it in the big 63 gym. And this is a national test that we follow all their regulations. We have to, for proctoring and where we take it and how we take it and what that looks like. So that is coming down on us quickly. Principal advisory board and prom and graduation thoughts kind of all go together. Met with my principal advisory board, great group of kids also. They are actually working on a promposal as they deemed it. I talked to my regional principal groups. Schools are kind of all over the place with a lot of different ideas of how they can try to entertain some form of a prom. This year it looks different depending on the size of the school. I think our students are wanting to draft up a proposal to maybe bring to you and to bring to county health if it's something that we are able to consider. They are definitely looking at something downsized. They're looking at something very simple, meaning not the elaborate decorations and that, just a chance for them to gather. They're talking about doing something outside later on, so we all know the risk of that in April and May in Montana, but we get a nice day every once in a while. They have some ideas about utilizing the down at Heritage Park, the covered area down there, big, not gazebo, but you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, the big covered area down there. They talked about a masquerade where, if they aren't social distancing, they're wearing some kind of masks. So they have some really good ideas. So just kind of be watching for that in the near future. They're going to put something together. So that's pretty good. Graduation, most schools that I talked to, we discussed this at our meeting the other day. Most schools are pretty much going to roll with what they did last year because we're all kind of in the same situation we were, except for we're open now. I mean, at least we're in school, we're, conducting our business, but they're looking at, restricted numbers. Some are talking about outside, some like they did last year. Some are going to roll it inside like we did this year. Obviously, we now have masks. Most schools are wearing masks indoors for these kinds of activities, but still trying to preserve graduation the best way that we can. I know our reverse parade was well received by the community, by the kids, by everybody. They loved it. So we may, we're hopefully be able to entertain something like that. And so we may need some guidance on what graduation looks like. But like I said, most districts are pretty much locked into doing what they did last year. We're just trying to make it as eventful as we can within the parameters we need to follow. So some ideas for both of those. But any questions on any of that? Just a list of some events coming up. We have some FFA things coming up. Actually, spring sport practice starts on Monday. Last year, we had to shovel off the tennis courts. I'm not sure if that's going to happen this year. Hopefully, that'll be nothing. But I think the kids are excited to start another round. And again, we're just so thankful to be able to do as much as we've been able to do and watch our kids play sports. And it's been good. It's been good. Any questions?
Very good, thank you.
All right.
Mr. Roberson.
Keep it brief. Clerk's position has been posted on OPI website, Maspo, and the Broadwater Reporter. Legislative update. don't have a lot because we're right halfway through the session. I noticed, I think one of them passed that was the incentive pay to new teachers. I got to look a little closer and see what that looks like. The preliminary budgets are out right now, but of course we won't know the final number until legislative session's done. So, and then I kind of had a thought that if you guys are interested, somebody's interested, hoping we get a board member or two to maybe be on a budget committee to help sit down and look at the current budget when we get a little more numbers. And with Ms. Hedlund, just have a few people looking at some numbers and get some ideas of where to go. Numbers they're not great, I'm sorry to say. There's a 5% increase from the legislature, but it, with steps in the lanes and everything else, it doesn't, we had one retirement, that helps a little bit. Well, three retirements now. We have a classified staff member that's retiring. But it's every year, it's one of those things you lose a lot of sleep over. So just thought if I got more than just my head wrapping around it, it'd be great.
I'll volunteer.
Okay?
Yeah, I think my wife and I were talking about this, looking at that ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds, I think there's a lot of things that are potentially available. And I think that's what it's gonna take, is just people getting together and trying to figure out how we can best utilize that money that's there.
Yes, and I put that right in the sentence with the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, because I think we can. The only thing I get a little wary of is they're there if we use them for personnel or things like that. We got to be careful that in 2023 that it's gone, and like now they're probably going to make us give it back if we don't spend it. But yeah, I think there's a lot of things out there, and it needs a better head than just mine sitting there looking at numbers.
And it's also still a moving target because the Senate, they're gonna have to reconcile. So it's down 3.5% from
So,
the House
yep,
version.
I guess if you guys are willing to do that, Ms. Hedlund is willing to sit down. Like I said, I want to get everything kind of lined out so I can go, here's where we are, now what? And look at that. So I would appreciate that. And that's all I have. And as Kevin kind of asked earlier with the clerk, I'm kind of thinking sometime late next week, see how many apps we have, and then find out who's interested in sitting on that. I was hoping for at least 2 board members, a couple administrative people, Ms. Hedlund, to do those interviews.
I'm sorry, I know you wanted to adjourn the meeting, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention that you guys have an exceptional teacher within your facility. He's the most incredible teacher I've ever met in my life throughout my school career and my kids' school career. His name is Mr. Bowman. I'm not sure if you guys, if you have an award for like greatest teacher of the year.
Sounds like my new one.
You put him on stage or something, but this man is so incredible. He is humble and he's caring and he goes the extra mile, and he has loved my children and helped them to succeed in a way that no other teacher before him has. And I don't know if that's something that you might want to think about in the future, because you do have some incredible teachers within your walls, but he is absolutely amazing, and I couldn't have asked for a better teacher for my son. So,
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Gary, sharing that.
Well, there's got to be something else we need to take care of tonight, doesn't there?
We can't be done so soon.
Meeting adjourned. Wow. Thank you, everybody, for hanging in there.
Well,